Hello to all of our collegiate fans across North
Woo!
America, and welcome to the CELO Fall Warm-Up Championship. We have the finals of the 2023 Shurima Division between the University of Waterloo and San Jose State University to see who takes the first tournament of the 2023-24 season. Welcome everybody to the show. My name is Grapes, here alongside Alk Battery and alongside our production crew of University Esports NA. Alk, it's a new look for Collegiate, and I'm super excited to get into the action today.
For sure, it's a dedicated stream. It's one of the first shows that we're going to have for the year, so really exciting stuff. And obviously, this is a growing project, so I'm really excited to see what we get for the rest of the year.
Yeah, hopefully we'll have more streams on this channel for the remainder of the CELO season, including the regular season and the championships as well. So make sure to drop a follow. Stay tuned here at Uni Esports NA to make sure that you are always up to date with all of your CELO needs. But this is the fall warm-up tournament, so we're not at the championship bracket just yet. And because of that, maybe it's good to remind everybody how we got to this place, just in terms of the format and how these teams had to compete in order to make it to the finals of the Shurima Division today. In the CELO Fall Warm-Up, any team was eligible to sign up, but the top 32 teams, I believe, made their way into that top division, which will be covering the championship matches.
Yeah. It's top 40. We're almost there. It's
40.
always 32. We're brainwashed by the collegiate championships. It's always 32, 64. We don't need those here. We got top 40. There are 3 different brackets like we were talking about. We're talking Shurima, Targon, and Bilge. The top 40 for Shurima. It is then for the next 40 for Targon, and then Bilgewater is every other team after that. You can take a look at our format like we were just talking about. Group stage, we have 40 different teams. There are 8 groups, 5 teams in each group, and it is single round robin, and they are best of ones. Top 3 from each group has advanced to the playoffs, where we then got to see in our playoffs all best of 5s. There was no best of 3s. We just skipped right into best of 5, single elimination.
Yeah, and a lot of the teams in the Shurima division, the top 40 teams in terms of ELO, as determined by Riot and the CELO committee, they are all very competitive teams that were here. A lot of them were in the CELO championship in 2023. In fact, both of the teams that we are watching here in the championship, Waterloo and San Jose State, were in the top 32 bracket last year. And even though some of the roster pieces are a little bit different, it's very indicative of the strength of the event that did take place here. And I think, Alk, I agree with you. The ability to play such high-level best of 5s this early in the year is definitely a good thing for a lot of the new rosters that we have here in Collegiate.
Yeah, just in general, I would say that every skill bracket needs a competitive format. It always needs a competition. I think that people who play, doesn't matter if you're an Iron or if you're all the way in Challenger, you deserve some kind of competitive tournament to, kind of like show off to everybody. But there's a lot of competitive players. Some people love the glory, some people love the grind. But here for the warm-up challenge, this is based on your solo queue record. That was what's in the rules, as well as some different format changes when we were talking about the rules. I think the biggest one for me is side select when we come into this tournament. The higher seed is going to have side select for the first, third, and fifth game, while the the lower seed does have side select on the second and fourth game, which is a really big change from typical formats where we see the loser get that.
Yeah, and especially considering here, in this current meta that we're at, if you've been watching the World Championships, you know that blue side is very, very strong, and so that might play a little bit of a role today, and we'll see if that, still holds here on the live patch, which we will be playing on today. But not only do we have, a lot of competitive best of 5s and high competition between some of the top collegiate teams in North America, we also have a very fun prize pool for the people who did make their way to compete into this event. Not necessarily cash or scholarships, but you get a ton of skins and a ton of RP if you take the first place in both of these tournaments in the divisions. 25 event chest bundles for the winner, whoever comes out here between U Waterloo and San Jose State. Not necessarily the most traditional prize, but definitely something that I would want if I was competing here today.
Oh, for sure. And the best part about it is that each of the players who win are going to be receiving this prize. So it's not split amongst 5. It's not going to be 5 event chest bundles for each. It's going to be 25 for each one of these players, which I think is really fun. It's a great way to introduce stakes for something that is a tournament that doesn't have the best teams that are in collegiate, but also is still something that wants to kind of give away some of that, competitive integrity. Be like, yeah, here's a prize for winning. Here's an awesome kind of thing that you can get. And I don't know for you, I was kind of the person that when we saw the really expensive Jin skin, I was out opening chests. I was out there
Yeah,
opening chests, just trying to random roll. And an event chest bundle like this would really help, especially when we're talking about 6,000 RP.
definitely, a very like legitimate amount of RP that you do get from here, and that can turn it even more depending on what the chests actually do give you. So maybe a little bit of fun rolling and an RNG for our champions here today. They'll have a lot of time to open up all those chests and celebrate with some really cool Worlds loot. Now, as we prepare ourselves for this best of 5 in the CLO Far Warm-Up Championship, let's introduce the teams just one more time of who will be playing here today. It's University of Waterloo against San Jose State University. You see the Maple Leaf above us right here. It's only one Canadian team playing, but we are in the fall, obviously. And it is a really, really fun matchup, especially considering the history that both of these two teams had, going back to last year.
Yeah, especially when we're talking about, just Waterloo making it into top 32. We have San Jose doing something similar. I am really excited for both of these teams just because of some of the names that you'll see on this roster. For me, someone who doesn't, watch a lot of, the top 32, I'm more focused on the top 16. I'll just be 100% honest. Getting players like this we get to see is really exciting. I love finding new names that you get to see, whether it be from solo queue or scouting them in different tournaments. And so for the Spartans here, they've got a pretty interesting lineup. Mountain, Screwjank, Clunker, Went T, and Earl Grey T. I think that their style that they've been playing throughout this tournament is pretty unique compared to some of the others, and I'm interested to see what they bring today.
Some new faces on this team from the roster that did make it to the round of 32 as the champions of the Mountain West Conference back in 2023 spring, where they fell 2-0 to Fisher College, who was another really very strong collegiate team. T is the only player that really had a very strong part of the Spartan roster, but we'll get into how this team has played it in warm-up in just a little bit. On the other side is University of Waterloo Gold. They will be taking red side to start this first game, as San Jose State were the ones to select blue. They have Inexhaustive, Jess, Plex, Kalimkoy, and Zenden, 3 of the 5, both in the top and the bottom lanes, all have been with this roster for quite a bit of time.
That's good. I love when we get to see the different kind of longevity of players on a roster. When we look at rosters in general, I think one of the biggest things that you try to look for is how long are they going to stick with a program, whether that be in amateur or in collegiate. And the longer time that you get to spend in a program with either people you've known or, new members joining the club or whatever program, I think that is always a good experience, whether it be even for competitive or outside of the game. Being able to have a group of friends that you can kind of rely on for a really long period of time builds a lot of great memories. And I think when we look at all the other collegiate teams, I think we can also kind of share our own experiences here. Having that stable, solid group is something that just you can take outside of the game and you can do so much with.
Yeah, a big difference between collegiate League of Legends and semi-professional League of Legends like we see in NACLQ and even NACL to some extent is the in-person aspect and community building aspect that you do see with these programs. You're developing these pieces over time as they do spend multiple years in your organization, in your university, and you're all playing together as a unit, all either on the same campus or maybe even in the same esports lab for some of these schools. And so having that teamwork and having that communication and having that synergy is very important. We've seen that with schools like Western for many years, and now here with Waterloo. If you have the same players, really grow together over a multitude of seasons, it does always generally work out well for you. Waterloo champions of the East Division last year. They made it all the way to the round of 16 and are going to look to try to build off of that into next year with some new pieces in their mid jungle.
And I think the more exciting part, for me anyway, for anybody who's been watching Challengers League and they've been really excited, obviously Onat kind of returning to the roster in a more full-time manner. He's been helping them out. You haven't seen any games of Onat play, so hopefully we're going to be able to kind of continue to see this kind of exploration of Plex as a mid laner. But I'm really excited to see what Plex looks like as the year goes on and as Onat kind of continues to, show off a little bit of his help in the roster.
Yeah, Onat, of course, was with this team last year alongside Last Dance as active players. However, now with Kalimkoy moving back into the ADC position and Onat, stepping aside into a more advisory role, yes, it's an exciting transitionary period for Waterloo, a team that was very strong last year, and so excited to see how they are going to be able to do. However, we did see San Jose State. They did take blue side in this first game, and with the meta generally in the place that it is, and also the amount of like high priority picks that San Jose State really like to pick early, this might be a very interesting way to start off this best of 5.
Yeah, there's a couple of things that I want to get out of here. One, the big thing for everybody, we are playing on live. There's no tournament realm for this tournament, so we are going to be playing on the live patch, which just means Jinx is really broken. Everything you've been seeing in Worlds, not really going to be super reflective. Cassante is very much changed. It's more of a numbers, but they did change on some of the functionality of some of his abilities. So this champion is a nightmare to deal with right now, especially in solo queue. And when we're looking at how these two teams are going to interact, bot lane has been pretty stagnant. It's been Kai'Sa Xayah for the most part, but we've been seeing B1 Jinx coming out from Waterloo, and when we look aside from them at San Jose, at the Spartans, they have been very resolute in their style of play. Control mage in mid, tank in top lane, and just let our jungler either run the clear with Hecarim and Graves, or pick up something a little bit different, something like an Ivern. So I'm really excited for what we get.
Yeah, the jungle matchup is a bit of an interesting one. It seems like both Jess and Screwjane Clunker enjoy having that priority on like more the heavy farming style. We've seen things like Graves, Hecarims, Talias become very popular, just within the semifinal and the quarterfinal matchups that these two teams have played. And so with that similar pool, maybe jungler gets contested a little bit early. Screwjane Clunker would have the ability to pick something like that Graves in that B1 position if it's not taken away by Waterloo. And we have seen a lot of very specific target bans against both of these teams. San Jose State's jungler, mid laner, I should say, Went, has been targeted kind of the most, though. We've seen the Asol and the Rumble both taken away a very, very strong amount.
It makes me sad, man, not being able to see the Rumble. I am interested to see if we get to get any kind of Rumble in this stage, just because we haven't really seen too much of it from the side of San Jose. So I know we were talking about this, but I feel like it's a little bit of a fake ban. I don't know if necessarily this team is going to play it. And like you're saying, if it is going to go into the mid lane, then it is something a lot different. And I'd be interested to see if what Plex has, because Plex is such a dedicated control mage player like Went is, in a similar vein, the Aurelion Soul. But when we're looking at Plex, it's Cassiopeia, it's Orianna, which Orianna, we can kind of throw her out. She's been really dominant for a little too long, but Cassiopeia in particular has been such a big focus for this team. When they do get it, they pop off.
Yeah, I mean, you see it at World Championships. You see it here with Waterloo as well. Orianna, very strong pick here for both the mid laners, I would say. The top lane matchup, I think, is the biggest kind of disparity in terms of playstyles, because from what I've seen from Inexhaustive for the last couple of years, a lot of fighters. The Aatrox is something that is, I think, probably one of his best champions, even going back to things like NECC or NACE or whatever it was called back in 2021. This guy really dominant on fighters, and Mountain's kind of living up to his name and being kind of a weak side, just kind of a weak side tank up there in the top side.
I swear, this guy top lane just like walks up. He's like, I'm gonna pick Ornn every game. He has 3 games of Ornn that he played back to back in their Converse series, and then he's like, I'm gonna really play Sion. And when he is allowed to have fun, when Mountains is allowed to play the game, and his team's like, fine, we'll pick you what you want, he defaults the Bullet there, which I think is really exciting. But it does mean that our top lane bout is gonna be really wacky, because Inexhaustive is that carry player. Like, it just has a ton of Camille games throughout the season. Aatrox as well. I think that their pool just kind of like embodies that pool of like 2018 Worlds top lane, where it's just Aatrox almost every single game if we can get it. I don't think I've seen an Akali too much out of Inexhaustive, but also has a Fiora in the back pocket. Like, he's everything a top laner wants to be, and should be a tough matchup for Mountains.
And I mean, if they can break that open, if the bot lane stays pretty even, that would be the angle for Waterloo to kind of take advantage of the situation. And it's interesting because with somebody like Onat coming in, playing on that team in 2023, throughout the season last year, I think Inexhaustive took a little bit more of a backseat throughout their early run. However, now he's been opened up a little bit more to play more of those carries, to play the Camille's once again. And so that's a very exciting thing. We're getting ready for Champ Select in just a little bit. San Jose State, as we said, will be selecting blue side to start things off. But overall, very exciting part and a very exciting time here in Collegiate. We have a lot of these new rosters coming in, with new players entering different schools and entering new environments. And for these two teams specifically, I'm excited to finally get a big look at them, because we have seen some top programs, like your Maryvilles, your Winthrops, your Fishers, playing in some of the LANs or NECC and other tournaments that have been in Collegiate for the last couple of months or so in the fall. But these are two teams that both were in the championship bracket, but we haven't seen much of them since that stage ended last spring.
Yeah, when we're talking about them, I think it's kind of like a situation where people are going to come into this tournament and be like, well, I don't see our top 4 programs like we were just talking about. I don't see the top 8 outside of that. I mean, maybe there's, you know, a rare like ISU, like we saw at the beginning of the bracket, who had to drop out of the tournament. I am very interested to see what these teams look like because Collegiate is more than just the top 4, right? It's more than just whoever wins the CLO championship. It is a culmination of so many different players, so many different colleges that are trying to have some kind of form of competitive esports program in League of Legends. And so when we're looking at this, I think this is a meaningful tournament for those that, like, if we're being honest, the Spartans and Waterloo would have a massive hill to climb if they're going to win a championship in CLOL. And so a tournament like this, I think, is really cool because they get to play in a best of 5. They can play multiple of them. You get deep tournament runs. And I mean, hey, like it's a pretty fun experience. It's maybe something that these guys will take with them for, you know, the rest of their lives. Are like, man, I went to game 5 in a grand finals and there's like this really cool moment. The casters like were going crazy. They're calling my name. Like those are awesome. Those are legitimately great moments that like a bunch of students take with them forever.
Yeah, and who knows, even, you know, with a good performance here and having that experience here in the fall before the real season really gets underway, it's a good opportunity for these teams to maybe build off of that and go into a bit of a larger run than maybe some people were expecting. Obviously, when you think of the favorites to win Collegiate based off of the rosters that they have, these two teams might not stick out right now, but if they put up a good performance today and continue to impress as we head throughout the regular season, those names can pop up into a lot of the many CLOL experts' heads maybe a little bit quicker if that ends up happening.
All I'm hearing, Grapes, is that CLOL power ranking sub, you're getting straight up bribed on the broadcast.
No. Well, I'm getting bribed with good performances. If they come out,
true.
That's how it works. You play well. I'm gonna remember that from now on. So that's the thing. We haven't seen these teams play too much here since the championship bracket. So you know, this is their first real test with the new rosters and the new lineups that they, you know, have the chance of changing a little bit as we head into the spring, but that we're likely expecting to be their biggest, you know, starting 5 for the 2024 season.
All right, so we've got all the table setting of like warm-up tournament is very chill. Good, we got there. Let's talk a little bit about how these teams ended up getting here because if you saw our format earlier, we're talking about the groups. Both of these teams did finish first in their group. They got a 3-1, so they were one of the highest possible seedings out of 4 games that they could have played. And the playoffs were a little bit different. When we look at San Jose, 3-0 versus ISU, 3-1 versus Cal, and 3-0 versus Griffin yesterday. So a very, very long kind of series. But when we're looking at that, they played, 10 games in total.
We can talk about the stakes and how the roads to these teams had to the finals in a little bit because we do have draft finally ready for game number 1 of this best of 5 series. Your grand finals in the Shurima division of the CLOL Fall Warm-Up Tournament. Right away, we do see 3 bands now that we were definitely expecting to see targeted towards that mid lane. Flex not going to get the Casio and not going to get the Asol or the Rumble.
I had the big red button to start the draft button. We already knew. The casters had to start the game. We were ready to go.
Oh, you got it on the tangent. You could have pushed it a little too early.
I pressed it and it had a little bit of delay. You know, like it was in there. Yeah, like you were saying, the Aurelion Soul and the Rumble bands were things we were expecting. I think it's really interesting that we're already getting the Jarvan band. This is something that has been super strong, obviously, after a couple of changes to the jungle, but also something that when we look at the enemy team, when we're looking at Waterloo, it has been one of their most played alongside that Graves.
Yeah, and as you said, this pick is going to have big priority across both teams. Both junglers love playing this one. This time it will be Scrooge and Clunker picking it up, and that does leave the Jinx open for Callum Coy on the other side. As you said, this is something they were comfortable picking B1 in their semifinal drafts, and I would not be surprised to see this alongside, you know, one of the more meta supports here on this one too.
Turns out this champion is kind of broken after uncapping the buff, after reverting her like 4 or 5 seasons back into the past. Giving her an unlimited amount of attack speed cap is just really cool. I love this champion as much as the next guy. I've been spamming this all the time, so I'm really glad that she's back. And we're looking at how we're going to see Waterloo kind of shape up here. I am interested to see how they protect this Jinx. When we look at how they kind of play, a lot of the focus is a little bit more on Jess and our top side, and Callum Coy is served as a secondary late game carry to them.
Yeah, Callum Coy has been with this team for a while, as we said, played support for Last Dance in the 2023 season, but is primarily an AD carry main, and nice to see him back on his main role as we have got scaling galore here on the Waterloo team. The Victor lock-in alongside the Jinx. We mentioned earlier in this pre-show how Plex loves to play those control mages, even if it's not the Cassio, and with the Lulu locked in for Zenden as well, we're going late game here for you guys.
Okay, that's what I like to see. I mean, look, you've got the Xayah Rakan for great engage. One thing that I am going to be worried about is Victor now. Anytime this champion doesn't have flash, I need to see a playmaking mid. I'm glad that we got rid of the Veigar. It is Wentz most played outside of that kind of Orianna pool, the Aurelion Soul like we were looking at. So I'm glad that they got rid of that. We need to see more and kind of different mid laners. The fact that Orianna isn't gone already is kind of setting up for maybe, you know, Waterloo saying, we want you to play that Orianna, we want to be able to deal with that and maybe have something there. But hey, Spartans, they have a strong bottom side. They have a jungler that can really play on both sides of either bottom lane or going towards top lane. We're probably not going to see that just because Mr. Mountains is a full-on tank player, but has to be worried, right? Like, you're going up against an Exhaustive. An Exhaustive has a bunch of different champions that can play into tanks, and it really feels like a pretty bad mismatch, stylistically speaking.
And if you ask me, if I was in the heads of Waterloo right now, I would be selecting a jungler here on R4 for Jess, and then waiting to see what Mountains pulls out to make sure that Inexhaustive has the best possible counter matchup in the meta that he has. You know, some of his favorite picks, like the Camille, like the Aatrox, are still up for the taking, and I would very much expect that to be an R5 here for Inexhaustive, and we'll see what Mountains does have up his back pocket. We don't have the Volley Bear available for him. It's gonna probably be one of those tanks.
Yeah, I'm a little worried now because we do need to see a ton of frontline here. Maokai making it all the way to R4 here, I think is absolutely insane. This is such a weird thing that maybe I'm just like Maokai blind, and I was just like, Maokai would have been banned, but he makes it all the way down here. Doesn't matter how many times this champion gets nerfed, or you nerf the champion, the runes, the items. The kid is just way too solid and stops a lot of what San Jose would want to do. We've got Mountains playing Singed. Now, this could be versus Victor, and this matchup is god-awful to play. We'll have to see what they pick as their last.
Would not be surprised if it is top or mid lane here. Went or Mountains could be picking up this Singed because of the fact that Went does have a little bit more of an unorthodox champion pool. We were looking at the things that they like to play. It was Ace and the Rumble. Those are both banned away. So with the Renekton locked in, we're not 100% sure at the very moment. However, if I did have to guess, it would be the Singed sent into the mid lane here for one.
That is insane there. Now, the Renekton going top lane. This has been something that has been banned in their playoff series a few times up against Mountain, and I thought it was pretty interesting just to see that kind of go on through. But I was always worried, like, hey, this Renekton, he never really goes for it when it's open. The champion is getting banned against them. So is this a real champion? Like, is this something that they're actually going to be able to take away? And it seems like already in our first game, that is what they're going to try and prove. They have the Singed here. I am a little worried here for San Jose if we start to set up the team compositions here. They are very short range, so Earl Grey T has to put in a lot of work. Went is not a champion that's going to have a lot of combat power early on, so I'm now looking at the support and jungle duo to really get a lot of action done so they can set up players like T and Mountains to succeed.
Now tell me a little bit about this mid lane matchup here, Alk, because I'm not super familiar with it as somebody who is, you know, not a complete demon in solo queue. So what can you tell me? Because you seem very surprised and excited when you saw the Singed getting locked in.
Okay, so this is something that we got to see in Champs Queue last year, kind of start to pop up thanks to Mr. Joseph Pune. in the mid lane. He would pick this. They thought it was a little bit of a troll, but up against Victor, this champion doesn't have a lot of damage in the early game. Singed is a champion that, you know, doesn't have a lot of, but has a ton of utility, and the base damages are pretty fine. And so Victor walks up into the lane, and until he gets like an item and a half, it's really hard to get singed out. Like, it's really difficult. Now, this isn't going to be the typical Singe that we see that is like proxy farming, but in almost no case until maybe Victor kind of like gets all his upgrades and gets like the mini Rylai's, doesn't really matter. Singed will just walk at him and throw him into goo. He's rooted. There's a Graves there on top of him, and he's dead every single time. That's how it should work, and I think that'll be the interesting thing to see here, as, you know, this is such an explorative game one already.
Yeah, in terms of like who's stronger in the early game or the late game, I mean, you have to give the late game advantage to San Jose State with the Jinx and the Victor. You have now the Aatrox as well for Inexhaustive in the top side of the map, but on the other side, there's not a ton of tools for San Jose State to really go out and take advantage of here. I guess the one tool where you're looking for a lot of gank assists is the Singe in the mid lane for Went, and if Screwjack and Clunker can get ahead on this Graves, can get that early laning advantage, or sorry, jungle advantage, I think that's what you're going to have to turn to in terms of finding a place on the map where you are really going to have the opportunity to get ahead.
Yeah, for Waterloo, I think they can be so dynamic in the game when we're talking about having that front line. The Maokai provides a ton of protection going up against the side of San Jose, and then you have the Lulu who can polymorph and kind of delay any of the melee members that are going to try and get into the face of Jinx or Victor, like the Graves, like the Renekton, and then you have Aatrox, right? Like, Aatrox in a side lane is already going to be pretty dominant up against Renekton. The laning phase is not going to be very fun for them, and so they feel like they've kind of covered a lot of their bases. The thing that I am going to be worried about for them is how does these first 15 minutes go? Because if you're behind, if Victor is set behind, doesn't have flash before a team fight, it can be very difficult for them to actually walk up. And if Screwjack Clunker, if we see them actually walk topside and we see Mountains kind of flip the game very early on, and you get rid of some of these very powerful solo lanes, it is difficult for Jinx to find that reset when no one is getting any damage down.
And the bottom lane here of T and Earl Grey T, which is going to be a fun combo to say in my head. On the Zyra Khan, that's going to be something that is going to be very important, because that is a lane that you can get a bit of an advantage in against somebody like a Jinx Lulu. While you don't have a lot of range, you have the early engage, and you have those bonus stats just for having those two champions together. If T and Earl Grey T can shut down Callum Coin's Endant, especially when Waterloo traditionally likes to play towards that top side of the map, that's probably another opportunity for them to really get that early lead and make sure that the game doesn't get out of hand where Waterloo's scaling is just going to take over.
Okay. We've got all the table setting there. I am very, very interested. This is such a departure from, I think, what I would have expected coming into this tournament, just because we set up coming into here that top lane for San Jose was going to be tank. They were going to be playing control mages in the mid lane. We were going to get a very similar clash of styles between these two, except for our top lane matchup, and that's already been flipped. It seems like for the side of Waterloo, they've done their job. They did their draft as we expected, and we came over. San Jose were like, Game 1, we're dropping it. We're just straight up, you're gonna have some fun.
And that's the kind of narrative that we've been running with for San Jose State for a while, because going into this event as a whole, I wasn't necessarily expecting them to be a team in the grand finals. They had their semifinal matchup against Converse, who's a team that has a lot of really talented players, most notably Surdy up in the top side of the map, but took them to 5 games, ended up coming out on top. And yet another instance where they're surprising everybody as Run of the Rift for game number 1.
Dude, I remember kind of going through and poring over that series and seeing what was being played, what were we kind of seeing from those two. In order, versus Converse, versus Surdy, one of the best top laners that we had individually over in Challengers League, and now joining us here in Collegiate. Up against him, this guy Mountains played Ornn, Scion, Volibear. Like, there's just nothing you could do. Now, they did the games that they lost. Can you guess what Converse were playing top lane?
Oh,
actually, I might not be able to hold that. We've got a level 1 hand. There's all you have to know. There's a Fizz top lane.
Okay, maybe that is why they lost the series, because there's an early invade here for San Jose State University on the red buff of Waterloo. Jess on the Maokai, not super strong level 1, but Screwjack Chunkler is chunked down about half HP. Gonna have to be very careful if they want to continue this invade.
Well, this is straight up awful. I don't know what to say. Like, Wendt used the Ghost. They don't have a lot of damage. They're trying to get the Maokai off on a bad clear, but I mean, Graves has to do the walk of shame all the way back into their side of the jungle. They're going to be clearing in the same direction, so unless Maokai wants to flip the pathing and try to catch San Jose unaware, this is a really good start for Waterloo.
And it allows for, you know, Chess to not fall too far behind, I should say, in the jungle matchup, as Screwjack Clunker, of course, kind of wasted a little bit of time. Not being able to get that correct invade, had to go back to his own top side of the map, and you can already see it's just getting out early, already at his bot side, looking to maybe impact Kalimkoi and Zendin, who are getting the early push in the 2v2.
Pretty interesting here. I mean, usually when you're playing up against Xayah, one of the things you can say is that, like, because of the way her feathers work, she will naturally just push the wave, but up against a Jinx, you're going to have higher range, you're going to have the rockets that are doing splash damage, just a lot easier for them to control. So Spartans now, what do we do? How do we kind of flip this game? There's actually just straight up bot lane action. Kalimkoi very low.
Flash coming forward. Zendin gonna get the kill. On to Earl Grey T to start things off. That is first blood going over to you, Waterloo. Already some summoners burned in the bottom lane, but here comes Wendt already on an early roam. Pops the W onto Zendin to slow him down. Flashes forward. Can't find the flip. And now Kalimkoi gets the fire back a little bit. Issues the zap, but T is gonna be able to get out safely.
That was exactly how I think fights are just going to go. We saw how great Lulu could be. I'm not going to even talk about the battle Lulu that we ended up seeing there, where they're flashing forward, they're finding kills. Camcom would be very happy to see a Lulu like this, but what do we do, right? As the Spartans here, we've now roamed away from mid. We don't have TP. We've already used our Ghost. We can't even use that to get back in the lane. The Predator is going to have a cooldown all of its own, and they just got absolutely nothing for it. Waterloo, they get the first blood, and like, what do we do now?
Oh, yeah, I'm not sure. Waterloo, they were the team that you wanted the scaling on, and it doesn't look like they're going to be able to have it. That is Zendin picking up that first blood, although we don't see it on our scoreboard right now. Just, you know, the bot lane, I said it going into the game. If you're Xayah or Khan, you're going to try to find that early advantage. Did not necessarily happen the way that we thought it was going to.
Jesus, like, this is not a great start for the Spartans. They really needed that gank to go through. They needed to find a kill in return. If you're currently wondering what's happening on scoreboard, there's a little bit of a bug, so just make sure you're staying in tune. But right now, it is a really good advantage now for Waterloo. They've already gone their backs in, and you look at T, he's got a Cole. Kalimkoi does have double longsword. Like, the item advantage is great. Screwjack Clunker is trying to steal away some camps, but Maokai is always going to be resilient. And when you're playing a Graves, it's all about, can you stay ahead and farm? Can you try to exercise like an item advantage of your opponent? Because otherwise, it's really difficult to try to kill a lot of these champions.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be tough, at least, you know, until we get a little bit later into the game, potentially. And as I say that, we are getting word from our production staff that, you know, we are on the live servers of Korsalk, and, you know, that can always often lead to instances where the player names don't necessarily represent the names that they're called competitively. I believe that the jungler is actually Onat off-roll into the jungle position for Waterloo. We'll get into that in just a little bit, as once again, Zendin gonna go under fire. That is not first blood, but it's the second kill of the game. First one for San Jose. Meanwhile, in the mid lane, it's Plex taking down Wendt, who went a little bit too far in the lane.
Oh my god. That is a pretty insane bug, I'm just gonna say. The fact that is not only that, a kill going over, that's first blood gold, it's additional gold. I don't know how much of an influence it's gonna have on the game. I'll have to see. This Maokai is in position.
They do go in on the Kalimkoi. Just gonna land the twisted advance only onto the Xayah, who has to flash away. Earl Grey T is now very low. Kalimkoi able to fire back as well. Still below 200 HP, and now Screwjack Chunkler is on the way. The bottom lane of San Jose State doing a lot to buy time, but finally Earl Grey T will fall, and the Xayah will do the same, but not before taking down Jess. Meanwhile, on the top side, another gank goes successfully for San Jose State, as now Screwjack Clunker and Zendin are fighting this 1v1, and the jungler's going to win this every day of the week. a crazy set of events here in game number 1. We got 8 kills in the first 6.5 minutes.
So many little things happen there that are just so important. Obviously, we're trying to watch for a T getting the setup on the feathers. There was a great flash from Kalimkoi to actually avoid all of the damage from the Graves auto because they were out of range at that time. And then we got to see Went leave the mid lane, recognizing that this lane is gone. You are a pure setup bot. Your jungler's not walking mid, I have to walk top to try to fix this lane, to try to fix this game state for ourselves. So now Spartans, they find themselves with a very, very minor gold lead, the kill lead in their favor. But the big thing is how big Screwjank Clunker is now going to be already. Very close to finishing a Mythic.
Didn't get the first initial invade off correctly, but you know the rest of the game.
We got the second and the third.
Yeah, got the second invade, then was able to go down to the bot lane a couple of times and really start to accelerate himself. Has 2 components of one of those lethality items on the horizon. That's going to be an early mythic, likely before 10 minutes into this game, and that's a very, very scary situation there in the jungle.
Okay, well, let's take a look at the top lane replay as to what happened, just because we weren't there. We were looking all the way at the bottom lane. It was the Predator activated. There's really nothing to it. The wave is pushing into the turret. They should be able to fix this as well. Really good job from Went to try to make this roam happen, and more importantly, this is the kind of play we have to see from a Singed, especially in a situation where you're almost never really going to be able to solo kill your opponent.
Oh, we're back to live, and already a level advantage here for the Spartans means that they can go aggressive. The quickness already used on the Kalimkoi, and that's enough to force the Ghost out of the Jinx. It'll get T and Earl Grey T, I should say. A nice advantage in the bottom lane. They're going to hold the wave, try to deny as much farm as they possibly can.
I think for the sake of the the audience, oh my God, Mountains is clapping.
Yeah, that's a solo kill.
Yeah. That's a Renekton. That's a solo kill. That's a massive wave as well. Looks like Jess gonna be able to pick up most of this wave. Prevent their top laner from really crying, but Mountains showing up big here in the first game of the Grand Finals.
Yeah, this is somebody that we were considering to be like a tank player. Here's the Singed gameplay in the mid lane. You might be down 45 CS or so, but he's certainly still able to make plays and force summoner spells off of the enemy mid laner. That is plexed out of flash. The dragon is still available, and we see Screwjank Clunker alongside his support and Earl Grey team making a heavy case of the situation in the bottom side jungle.
This is something that we actually talked about during the draft, right? The jungle and support duo from Screwjank Clunker really going to have to get action done. We can take a look at the replay as to what happened, but this is literally what happens every time to Victor when he doesn't have flash. He just gets ran at. It's Fog of War. There's no Singed. Look at me. I'm getting my Victor bucks. I'm auto attacking the thing, and then boom, there's a Singed in my lane. Not going to have any more fun. And now that he doesn't have flash, I love how we're seeing them kind of step up, take jungle camps out of the bottom side, focus down, and get some dragons for themselves. So 9:45 is about our first dragon here. I'm really looking forward to now how they leverage this top side advantage.
Yeah, this is, again, not necessarily something that we were expecting. You mentioned the champion pool that Mountains went for against Converse University in Spartan's semifinal matchup. And they were not necessarily the carries like they're in Ekton. And so now seeing the top side of the map for San Jose State with an early lead alongside T, who has finally been able to generate a bit of a CS gap as well. A lot of the carries, a lot of the pieces that you wanted to get ahead here for the Spartans are on the right track right now.
How disgusting is it that a lot of just the base damages for these champions are so high? Went doesn't need to do anything. He can be down 50 here, and
it doesn't matter. He's gonna go right for it. Yeah, there's no flash on to the Victor. He pops the Chaos Storm, but stuck in a 1v3 for now. A nice flip back as well, as Earl Grey team will be the one to unfortunately finalize that kill.
It went to use both summoner spells. I don't know if we needed to do all that. We had Predator and we had the Ghost. We needed to use one of them. We used all 3, and it just turns into another kill. And guess what this means now? They get to have access to Jess's topside camps. What's happening up there? Do we have vision? Can I get a timer on their camps? So now they know that Maokai can be on the bottom side of the map. And Screwjank Clunker has so many different options. Do they want to go topside, like we see the Singed already moving up here, or clear down, prevent a potential crash of the next couple waves onto our bottom lane? As Earl Grey, don't think he can be up there.
Pops the stop loss for life. There's cancel the last proc of the Ignite. Super Mega Death Rocket is blocked by his AD carry. Earl Grey team miraculously will survive as Waterloo aren't able to find the 2v2 kill. Maybe Jess can help him out though. Here comes the Nature's Grasp. It does lock up the Xayah. In comes the Maokai with the twisted advance, and he'll be able to pick up his first kill of the game.
Yeah, that should have just been a death. Just let it die. Just let them go. You didn't have to use the flash there. Good punish coming out from Waterloo. They even get the flash out of the Xayah, so no flash, no ultimate available for them. They're going to use this time with the Rift Tail to crack open these plates. And Waterloo, they really need to start finding some area of success because it hasn't been their top lane. Mid lane's been focused. And while Maokai is just trying to find camps and try to prevent ganks, it has not been working for them. So 12 minutes now, Jinx is going to start getting more and more gold. She has not been in a great position to grab kills. And we need to see how they're going to be able to leverage this, as the game will only get harder as, you know, champions like the Singed get items and they press ultimate and you get so many resistances.
So it is good to see some of the scaling for Waterloo and some of the big pieces for them start to get ahead just a little bit as we have another duel in the top side of the map. Mountain not afraid to use some of his HP bar to make sure that wave is crashed under his turret. As taking a look all over, of course, Callum Coy is ahead. I think it's very funny how Zenden is already like the kill leader in the entire game and also has one missing from his scoreboard as well. He should have 4 kills at this point.
This should be a 4-2 Lulu. I agree. Yeah. This is a straight up highway robbery. This minion right here, that further melee minion is doing God's work right there. Just straight up saved Plex. And now they don't have a Rakan ultimate before a couple of these objectives are going to spawn. A minute and a half before the Dragon and Rift Herald is going to be spawning very soon as well. Need to be thinking of, hey, like, we don't have the timer. What is our play here? We're actually going to be going top. They have so much vision invested to try to protect this Jinx.
I mean, the strategy when you have this Singed mid lane here for Went is just to keep looking for plays wherever you can on any area of the map. See, he has not taken CS to be a major priority for himself. He's got the early swiftness boots, working probably towards that Rylai's, and his goal will be to just find those plays whenever he can. As both top laners have rotated down to the bottom side, they have traded their ultimates, and
oh my god,
actually a lot of damage getting chunked out by an exhaustive. Mountains have to be very careful. No flash available for the Aatrox. Lands a Q1. The Q2 not getting used just yet, as he's being very, very patient and finally forces out a flash.
Has to be so careful there. I mean, unfortunately there for Mountains, he just decided to face tank every single Aatrox Q in the world, so it makes it really difficult to win when Aatrox Q hits you for like 140% of his base AD. It's not fun. It's pretty tough, and so end up losing the flash there. A very big tool as we get close to objectives here. Renekton not having flash means it's a little bit difficult to get onto someone like a Victor or the Jinx like we have been setting up. Both of them now having flashes available. There's a Dragon, and as we can see, everybody starting to recall for Plex. Gonna go top side. They're gonna be pushing out this wave, teleport ready to join the fight. We need to watch how they use their summoner spells because a single pick here can really start to open the game for either team.
Has been very even overall just in terms of the gold department and where the strengths of these teams both lie. The Dragon has been started up by the Spartans, but it looks like Waterloo want to contest. They're going to try to collapse onto the Aatrox, but already look at Jess on the flank. Went goes down immediately. Mountains trying to stay alive here with the Gore Drinker as Chi and the Renekton are on the other side of the fight. Jets continue to chase forward in onto the enemy jungler. Bunker in that spot. Now Earl Grey T will get taken out by the Nature's Grasp. The Dragon now secured by Waterloo as they have taken a significant lead in this game.
Oh, they're going to continue to chase as well. They want to say no jungle camps for you. There's going to be no lanes for you. What a difficult fight for the Spartans to try to get through. The fact that Wet just popped instantly. Not a lot of resistances until that ultimate is used, and even then, it is only so much that you can get out of the Insanity Potion. So for the second Dragon going over to them, good smite coming out from Screwjank, but they need to get a little bit more done than that. Jinx getting a lot of pop-off right there, as well as the Victor, who just needs those Victor bucks, right? We're talking about all of that Victor currency so they can upgrade their spells, get that Hex Core. It's very difficult now as we look at Spartans. Remember that there was no flash on Renekton, so they kind of had to just stand there and be like, I can't hit Jinx, guys. For some reason, this champ's a little too far away from me.
Yeah, and now another start of the objective by the Spartans. They'll be able to pick up the second Rift Herald. However, with another teleport coming in, it looks like Waterloo want to continue to go on the aggressive. In comes the Hexgate from an Exhaustive. A huge chunk of damage already from the Rocket of Callum Coy. And now it is Spartans in a really bad spot. The Feather Storm does a little bit of work, and they do shut down the Maokai. Zaya will be able to pick that one up with another teleport coming in from Mountains to make sure that San Jose State can get out safely.
Big shutdown as well going over to T, so a lot of gold in their back pocket. Not only did they get the flash out for the Maokai, which is a very important summoner spell, but TP from Inexhaustive. Yes, they did trade it for Mountains. I think it's a perfectly worthwhile trade. They come up big in this play, also getting the Rift Herald.
All right, so not out of this one just yet, as the big pieces that we still need San Jose State to be strong are definitely still very strong, as we saw in that last play. Screwjank Funker as well as T, that double marksman composition, doing a lot of work there in that fight around the second Herald. And even though Went isn't necessarily the strongest champion right now, just being able to facilitate his teammates and make sure that they're able to get ahead, that has been what has helped San Jose State so far.
Now we got a little bit more time to set up. I want to see the Spartans try to siege onto this mid lane turret. It is so difficult for them to do until they can get, maybe a pick. They can try to chunk out one of the members, but that requires for Waterloo to overextend and for it to not be specifically this Maokai. Maokai having a lot of HP, and those steel-capped plated caps are going to be doing a lot of work in this situation. So we need to see them kind of try to open up one of these turrets because they haven't gotten a single one. Now Mountains, Res is the ultimate. Can't really get up the wall.
Heals up a lot, but yeah, literally impossible to touch that Jinx in a 3v1 situation. It looks like this is go gank your top laner time on Summoner's Rift. Inexhaustive gonna get targeted as well on the opposite side of the Rift. And Screwjank Clunker will make himself 3-0-3 with the Rift Herald still in his hands. Looks like they're gonna use that in the bottom side.
I will say, if we're talking about trading top laners, this is a massive win for Waterloo. This is gold into the Jinx, who is just going to continue to outrange. We haven't been able to see Spartans have a very clear, definitive winning team fight for them so far in this game. And we're getting to that point where, hey, Jinx is going to be a problem. She's getting her second item at this point. Third item, we're also looking at the Spartans to kind of be in a bit of a tough situation. I mean, Plex, outside of that one death and kind of losing the flash, really hasn't lost all that much. We're already talking about how they have one of the best CS scores right now in the game. They're getting gold. They're making sure that they're staying important in this game. And really the only person from Spartans that we're seeing kind of step up is our jungle and our bottom lane for them. But they need to do a lot more than that if they want to have a chance of winning this.
And I think a lot of that, as you said, has to be very, very soon, because of the fact that when you get to a 5v5, Waterloo just kind of outclasses San Jose State in terms of champions they have on the Rift. You have this Singe that's very far behind, is very good at setting up picks, but not really good in terms of the team fights when you compare him up against Plex's Victor. And on the other side, just the front to back as a whole, you have the big front line for Waterloo, and then the Jinx Victor in the back line. So I think going for picks, maybe trying to find an early Baron is where San Jose State can get back into this one, because it's been a close game in terms of the kills, but you look at the gold right now, it is Waterloo up 2,500.
Ooh, and I love that we're seeing Screwjank try to play around with some of the funky vision that you can try to get away with on Graves because of his dash, trying to avoid the scuttle that was in the river, also trying to get behind Plex here, but they weren't able to really move him. There's a Rift Herald now being spawned. It seems like more of a, hey, like we didn't have it available, but he's chunked out, and there's a very real possibility for them to start up the dragon here, as it's already spawned. They're having to move down. The saving grace for the Spartans, if they really want to fight this, is that there is Hex Gates, but they are already getting pushed in on bottom side, and they're also losing the shove in mid. This is such a tough spot, because now Waterloo will be at 2 dragons. It's not very close to our soul, but it's another thing that the Spartans have to worry about when we're talking about getting outranged later in this game.
Oh, but already Zendon caught out here as San Jose State want to go for this fight. Will finally get taken down by the collateral damage, but now Wentz and Earl Grey T in a bit of an interesting position here. They found Callum Coy, though, as Mountain on the Renekton trying to chase him down. Here comes Went on the Singe, and he flips him back into the Death Chamber. 2 shutdowns on opposite sides as Callum Coy and Scrooge and Clunker fall, but a big chunk of gold into the hands of San Jose State.
They still got the dragon. I think a win here for Spartans is those 2 kills like we were just saying, but also it is the summoner spells they were able to grab out of this game, out of that last fight. Flash from Aatrox, Victor, and Jinx, as well as the Lulu. Those are huge summoner spells to take, as well as the teleport from Plex. So if they are going to be able to punish, it's in the next 3 minutes for them to be able to find something. And that would be a great setup if they're able to do that in about 2.5. That sets them up for a dragon that they can put down vision. They can establish themselves on the map. And finding that kill onto KhazixMayJump was very important, but you did go over a shutdown onto Scrooge and Clunker, so you need to be very careful with how they're playing this. They're on a very fine line between being able to find victory and potentially snatching defeat.
Yeah, this is kind of the way that you have to play the team fights, though. If you are San Jose State University, you have, the Rakan, you have Mountains on the Renekton, you have Went, of course, on that Singe. They have to dive. They have to try to kill these crucial carries, because if they fight standard, they will not win. And so getting that early pick onto the Jinx was important. You can see, though, that KhazixMayJump kind of is aware of the situation, has purchased the Gale Force. We saw it kind of buy a couple of seconds in that last fight. But my eyes are going to be how quickly San Jose can one-shot one of the carries, whether it's Plex or KhazixMayJump, and that will be the determining factor on if they are able to win a team fight or not.
Our that jungle support duo, they're using Fog of War really, really well, walking in, trying to establish vision, trying to establish pressure for their team. It ends up them getting a mid-tier 1. Maybe we see a re-engage here. You already see Inexhaustive moving in from a flank on the bottom side. Ultimate
dodges away here from the Nature's Grasp, and with Inexhaustive popping the ultimate was enough signal for the Spartans to get away from that one. Across the map right now, not looking at too much, but with resets coming in for San Jose State, Waterloo have their eyes towards the Baron. They can take this down pretty quickly, but it doesn't look like they want to risk a flip given how that last team fight went.
That ward right there that is right next to the Baron pit is a really, really strong one. It allows for them to always see it's outside of where the pink ward is, and this was the matchup that I really wanted to get back to. We might have to hold out. We've got some team fighting going on. Plex cannot enter this fight.
Oh, great team, hit up by a ward. The Mega Death Rocket comes out. This in comes a teleport. Will be Inexhaustive joining Waterloo in this one. Without Mountains and without a lot of the health bar on the enemy support, it will be Waterloo starting this Baron up.
Oh, they're just going to have to force it. They have no other option. They feel very threatened at this point. Mountain recalled, teleporting back in. It is going to have to be on other members. Earl Grey maybe with a flank.
It's a fight, yeah. Smoke Screen does a lot of damage, but already Secret Tumbler is down. They knock up one, but it's already Waterloo running away with the fight. See with a huge Thunderstorm though, and the drag back will give himself a triple kill. Now fighting this 1v2. Plex with one laser should be able to finish him off, but he does so with the Q. A very, very close fight. Should a lot closer than maybe should have, but it still results in a win for Waterloo.
Massive ultimate there, massive blade caller to open up the fight. It stops the Baron, and that right there by itself prevents Spartans from just outright losing the game. In a fantastic set of plays, and I wanted to focus in on that top lane matchup because we saw Mountains, he got a little bit of help. It was that first kill from Went that ended up helping him. Then he found the solo kill there, but really this matchup has gone absolutely haywire afterwards. Inexhaustive showing a lot of experience in this matchup and doing a lot better as time has gone on. You already see there's a bit of an item advantage starting to creep up for him. A CS, we gotta take a look at the replay of this Baron. I mean, big thing for me was the fact that Earl Grey so low, and while Callum, he had just no more defensive abilities, right? He didn't have Gale Force, he had already used the Flash, so big ultimates coming out from both teams.
Very impressive usage of that blade caller there from T, knowing how to combine it with the flash to get the maximum amount of damage from those feathers as he could. That resulted in a triple kill and potentially a game-saving play for the Spartan AD carry. It meant that Waterloo couldn't go back to the Baron and finish it off. And now it is Team edging closer to 3 items. You already have KhazixMayJump with that threshold, but another really strong marksman will make all of these team fights all the more explosive.
For sure, and I think right now, Spartans, you have to just be worried, like, hey, there's a flash coming up for Callum, they just used TP for Victor, there's no flash available, or there is a flash available for Flex. This just isn't our fight. There's a Baron still available, we need to be prioritizing that, because that Baron will just end the game. If Waterloo want to pull the Baron right now, they force Spartans into such an uncomfortable position, where they're saying, okay, cool, walk into us, walk into Victor Laser and Maokai Saplings, and all this setup that they have, and as soon as we find one kill, we can just straight up end the game with this objective.
I mean, it just kind of comes down to one fight at this point, and obviously it's a little bit more, you know, it's going to require a little bit more creativity here for San Jose State, but we've seen them being able to do this in the past. Interesting thing now is to watch the TP timers, because you have seen historically these top laners kind of just hovering on the bot side of the map, and without a dragon right now, it means that kind of opening up a 4v4 around that objective, at least for the next couple of minutes.
Here's some of that itemization coming to play. Plex very close to that third item on the Void Staff. Right now, Callum Coy already finishing a third item. The Phantom Dancer is going to just provide him with so much movement speed as well, just naturally, even before the getting excited. So very worrisome here for the Spartans. We're kind of seeing Screwjake deviate from that build. It is obviously like pure lethality, but getting the Maul is just to help him with survivability up against the Victor. You're going to get a lot of armor from the side of the you know, the Graves and him being able to dash around, so maybe that's something they can use. I'm just worried now that Spartans, they need to dump their entire champion kits onto Callum Coy and Plex. Like, Flash used by Mountains, we're seeing Went go in as well, so that flash timer that you see that's starting to come up, that's going to be a really important one, and I think that's when we're going to start to see San Jose step up.
You see Scrooge and Clunker around the Dragon Pit, maybe trying to catch somebody out right now. I don't know if that's necessarily the play, as going in 1v4 against Waterloo composition is almost certainly a death sentence. And I would agree, waiting for the summoner spells to come up for those like Went, maybe even T, but maybe that's not going to be the case right now, as T's already gotten locked up, forced to go back with about 30% of his health bar, and now with San Jose State in a bad position, it looks like the fight could go the way of Waterloo if they are not careful. Here comes that teleport as Inexhausted wants to join the fight with his team. Went very, very low, so like a Death Rocket not coming out just yet, and it will be tanked up by the Renekton. No kills, but the health bars are low enough that Waterloo will head their way towards Baron.
What an amazing fight there for Waterloo. I mean, there was no ability for Earl Grey T to really find an entrance, just popping the Recon quickness way too early, and then there's really nothing for them to do, so they have perfect vision on here. There's so much focus going on to Zenden. It is 07 salutes out here for Screwjake Clunker, who's going to try and make the escape. Got the flash out of Inexhausted, the one that I'm looking forward to.
Oh! What a cancel there with the knockup. Inexhausted making sure that the jungler for San Jose State does fall, but now it looks like Spartan want to go for a little bit more of a play. Callum Coy is still HP alongside Flex, and that means that you have no avenue back into this one in a 4v5. Waterloo take a big advantage off of that Baron, and they're looking primed to take game one of this series.
Yeah, they've got Baron, the 3 items now hitting for their 2 carries in the mid and 80 carry position here. Baron available for Jinx. She's going to get excited and just rip apart this. Still has flash.
Goes to the flash on the Callum Coy. He uses it in response. Already taking down one, and these are the Jinx resets that the buffs did allow for.
Oh my!
Gives Callum Coy a double kill.
Wait, he's just running. He's still excited.
Still excited. Still doing a billion autos per second. That is a triple kill that should not exist in the game League of Legends. Callum Coy going crazy here at the end of game number 1, and there's only 2 alive on San Jose State to try to save this game. The next turns are under fire. In goes Jess, the knockup onto Earl Grey T, and University of Waterloo will take game 1 of the Shurima Division Finals.
Oh my god, we get to see live on air how much fun this Jinx champion can be once you start to get excited. That was why I was so scared about this Baron. As soon as you take an objective, as soon as you take something that's going to be able to trigger that passive, she just takes off. It's kill after kill. They just straight up strung one team fight around Baron into an end of the game right there. That was just pure patch notes diff instantly.
Yeah, as soon as the Jinx gets ahead, is able to, use Baron to start sieging down these towers. It's not only the champion kills that'll get you those resets, get you the excited ability, and be able to issue out. I mean, that must have been like 7 or 8 attack speed at the end of that one, but
Yeah.
it was just one fight around that Baron. It didn't even result in any kills, but it chunked down players like T, and it forced some summoners out. They get the Baron, and that's all that they needed with the late game composition that Waterloo had.
Yeah, Spartans, they just didn't find an early enough lead. That early invade didn't turn into much. Mountain's advantage individually wasn't really worthwhile, and unfortunately the Singe pick, we didn't get enough value out of it as we needed. We needed for this mid lane matchup to be very difficult for Victor to be behind, and it felt like kind of a very typical solo queue attitude where as soon as the flash is gone, cool, hands up, we don't have to come back until that. You should be able to solo kill your opponent, right? There was not a lot of action
always
coming
work
out
like
from
that.
them.
Yeah. Plex was able to survive and did have a very solid game, even though it wasn't necessarily the show-stopping performance because he was targeted so heavily here by Wentz. But an interesting draft situation by San Jose State that was their answer into the Victor, and now with them swapping over to red side presumably, as Waterloo will be the ones to have side select here in game 2. Some more questions are going to have to be answered about how they want to play the game, because in terms of the composition, they definitely had a strategy. It was go for the early game and try to stack a gold lead in the beginning, but it did not go out the way that they planned.
Yeah, we can even look at the prior draft that we just saw where, hey, we're talking about the first pick Renekton here, right? Like, or the first pick Graves. Is this something that's going to continue out throughout the series? Jinx has been so high priority throughout this tournament. Wouldn't be surprised if that's something that kind of changes as we get further into the series. Going to be very exciting to see. I think first kind of takeaways from this patch already is, yeah, Jinx is just not allowed. We just can't allow this champion, especially if Jarvan isn't available. If Jarvan is something that's already taken away, and if Maokai's also going to be on the same team, I think you just cannot allow these two to be together. There's just so much protection that is allowed. Maokai should be someone that can threaten the backline. And yeah, I mean, we're going to be going through a package of what happened throughout this game. There's a lot of going to be up and downs here for San Jose, but I think the biggest difference, like we were talking about, is just the fact that one team has Jinx and Maokai, the other does not.
Yeah, the bottom lane really was explosive, despite it, kind of being 2 scaling 80 carries in this one. And this is where we thought that maybe San Jose State would have been able to come out on top. You can see them going for plays, whether it's just Scrooge and Clunker in the bottom lane. You saw Wentz go up to the top side there and get a kill on an exhaustive, but they weren't able to get as much as they might have hoped for. And eventually, Waterloo and Callum Coy specifically was able to get very, very far ahead.
There was no threat onto this Jinx, right? Like there's just no one that deals enough damage. We talked about how Mounds needed the flash. We needed to see Went actually threaten the backline, but when you're playing Singed, when we talked about this composition, we said that this was going to be a very low range game for them to play. They needed to get into the faces of their opponents. They needed to find a way, and there's just so many tools. I mean, we go list by list. The entirety of Maokai's kit. I'm just gonna ignore this champion. Victor has his slows that he's available to him. Jinx with the flame chompers makes it difficult to walk in a straight line towards her. Lulu, like we had mentioned, same thing with Aatrox. There are so many ways for them to actually stop Spartans from getting and executing their game plan. There was really nothing for the side of Spartans that they could have done other than say, like, thumbs up, we have to just outplay our opponents, which is what we saw in some instances, like we just saw there around the Baron with T.
Yeah, I mean, definitely some shining lights here for the side of San Jose State, as we can take another look at this Jinx moment here. Just so much attack speed, able to clean up the fight and end the game in just about 30 minutes. We do have word that it'll be San Jose State on blue side for game number 2, so not entirely sure if the rules were the way that they were, or if maybe they're adjusted here for this finals where the loser is able to side select again, but it looks like we're going to be seeing the teams on the same side for this game once again. Do you think the strategy changes either way just because of how that game actually ended up unfolding?
I'm gonna double check just what their initial seeding coming in. So Spartans should have had, so they were the first seed coming in. So yeah, I think we'll probably just have that, something we can look into later. In terms of different strategies, Jinx. What do we think about banning the Jinx? Oh,
pretty good. We get
Vators.
Okay. Here we go. Shout out to our observing team, by the way. Let's take another look at this play. I believe this was the one that San Jose State looked like they had the opportunity to get back into this game with just a little bit. Wow. That Featherstorm, and then watch the flash here to catch all 3 of them here.
Wow, oh man, I think the fog made it a little difficult to see the feathers coming in. But yeah, that was just, that was a little bit of a diff where, hey, I just don't have flash. It was a great moment for T, but I think maybe just coming a little too late. I think my big issue right now with San Jose is, honestly, Earl Grey T, these engages on Rakan have not been it. We needed to see something a little bit more innovative. I will say it's a little difficult as Rakan to actually go in if they're playing against a very confident Lulu and Maokai, but we needed to find creative angles. There's just nothing for them to do this game.
Yeah, and maybe that has to do with the jungle, which again, are we getting confirmation that that is Onat in the jungle here for Waterloo?
Yeah, we've been told that it's Onat, so we're gonna refer to them as Jess, but if we need to, we just talk about it. I'm glad that we have Onat back in the game. It isn't a much different role than he is typically used to, but the fact that we get to have him in game, he brings so much leadership that he can talk about from his time in Challengers League and being able to play there. So I'm really glad that we still have him playing competitive, even if it is in a different style of tournament and something that isn't as high stakes as Challengers League trying to promote into the developmental systems.
Yeah, somebody like Onat had an opportunity to play in Challengers League in 2023 summer. It looks like it's not going to be the path that he continues officially down the line, but still has a lot of competitive experience and a lot of very good hands in terms of the game League of Legends. So able to help out his collegiate organization and make sure that they are on the right track and making sure that he's able to do whatever he possibly can to help that team win. What, even if it is playing off role and being more of a facilitator for his team, able to sack his lane, sack his goals a little bit, and play things like the Maokai to support the rest of his boys.
Oh man, I can't believe we've put our Gragas RA player from Challengers League on Maokai. Feels like it's like what have you done with my poor boy? What have you done? You've got rid of him.
Yeah, it's a new look. It's like when you have like the master and then he becomes like the that meme with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and the rat guy. He's like he's the old man.
You did not just call Master Splinter the rat guy, bro. Come on.
This is not a show that I watched when I was.
Dude, I didn't even watch Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
I'm so sorry.
Okay. Come on.
Hey, you know what I mean, though, right? He has the experience, and then now he's able to play the Maokai a little bit, have the rest of his team support him.
I refuse to engage at this point. You did not call Master Splinter the rat guy.
I learned something new today. I honestly, it's one of the situations where you have it at the back of you have it like on the tip of your tongue, and I wasn't able to pull it, so I apologize. We have a couple more minutes until the draft starts. It looks like we are getting confirmation that loser does get side select, so that is kind of the direction that we're going to be going. But we'll be double checking to make sure everything is correct. But I still think this will be a competitive best of 5 here between these two teams.
Oh, yeah.
Waterloo came out on top. I mean, it was very close for a large chunk of that game.
For sure. That is definitely kind of just the way it is. Blue. Okay. One thing I will say for blue side, the thing that is really important for side select is obviously blue side is very OP when we're looking at the world's meta. But also, you can kind of have the caveat that a lot of the higher seeded teams are just picking blue side. So the win rate is a little skewed when you have teams like JDG and Gen G playing this side of the roster versus like G2. You
better not say a North American team right now.
I was not going to say a North American team.
We're on the Uni Esports NA Twitch channel right now.
Yeah, true. I'm so glad. Well, they also have an EU side. They have a UKLE Scholastic program. So
yeah, exactly. We're not there.
We're not talking about them. We're talking about the failures of their region at international. Yeah. Exactly. Let's go NA. Let's go NRG. I really wanted to kind of put a little bit of an emphasis on this because when we're talking about the side select, like you were saying, blue side is just really strong with being able to get the getting the jinx, like we were talking about. Being able to have the first pick priority is so strong. There's a lot of OPs right now, and you can't ban all of them, so you always have to say, like, what are we willing to bargain? How are we willing to trade?
Yeah, a lot of OPs. I think that jinx is going to be still at the top of people's heads because of the fact, top people's minds, because of how OP it was and how strong it was in that last moment here. As we do have a couple of minutes until that next game does end up beginning. We have received word that the side selection has swapped a little bit, and it will be Waterloo on the blue side for this game.
Good. I just want them to have blue side, man. I want to see how they
Yeah.
do. I need to see how the Waterloo boys be able to do, because now they can first pick Jinx, and there's nothing that that San Jose could do but ban the champion, man. Like, there's so many different things, and then you have to start thinking about all the bans that they're gonna drop, right? Like the Jarvan, the Rumble, the Cassiopeia. Are those going to be staying? When you look on the opposite side, are they going to also be banning the Volibear away from Mountains? I think Inexhaustive, after playing this matchup, is probably going to say, like, cool, you played you played Renekton, and then your champion was absolutely useless post 15 minutes. I'm just going to go ahead and say, like, I'm just going to take it.
Let's do it again.
Yeah, run it back. I'll let you have the Volibear if that means we get Jinx first pick.
Yeah, definitely would be something that Callum Coy should be happy to pick. I mean, this is Jinx probably has been something that we've seen in some of the collegiate lands that have happened. That's kind of my biggest experience of games that have been played that are, on this current patch and not necessarily on the World's Meta patch. So when Jinx have had these advantages, and we've seen teams like St. Louis University being able to pick up the Jinx early and have that work well for them. And they're one of the best teams in the collegiate circuit at the moment. And so seeing a team like Waterloo also play around, like somebody like Callum Coy, who was playing support last year and now has moved his way back up to AD carry, and it's very cool to see how Waterloo does put a lot of trust into their now veteran marksman.
This is the thing we were talking about at the beginning of the show, right? Where we're talking about longevity, staying in programs. You get to build a lot of that loyalty, a lot of trust, saying, hey, you've been in our program, we've had different results with you, but we're kind of going to be able to show that, like, you are a team player, you're someone that is able to work in a team environment. So it's really good. It's good team building exercises as well. Being able to, like, play different roles, I think, shows a lot of flexibility on the side of Callum Coy. And we've already seen in this tournament during the group stage some very interesting wacky tech in the Seraphine Senna. So I'm interested to see if whether or not that comes in and maybe Callum taps back into his supportive ways.
That is true. They're able to, use maybe some of that old experience to play Seraphine. That is what we saw earlier on in the knockout stage here for the University of Waterloo. So I like how both teams kind of have their own unique things that they can bring out. With Went, it's just whatever mid laner that they feel like playing that time, whether it's a Sin, Daisel, or Rumble. And then the Callum Coy and Zenden able to be very flexible down there in the bottom lane. So each team has their own trap card they're able to pull out, but if Jinx on the board for Waterloo, I think you just do select it.
Oh, for sure. Now, we're talking about all these teams. We're talking about our Shurima division. If you don't know, for this tournament, there are 3 different divisions. Top 40 is going to be Shurima, so these are our teams that we're going to be actually watching here today. The Targon, which is going to be the next division, and Bilgewater. I am actually... sorry for Targon. I am way more interested in Bilgewater, because Bilgewater is every other team after that, and after top 80. And that just sounds like an insane Royal Rumble between, like, different teams that have probably never graced the light of CLOL Championship top 32 brackets. Yeah. So, like, they are just fighting for table scraps, and I am very interested because that just sounds so fun.
Yeah, a lot of just these teams that don't have all of the varsity programs and things like that, but just very fun collegiate programs as a whole. That's another part of Collegiate League of Legends that I really love to see. We can maybe dive into that a little bit later, though, as we do have the draft finally for game number 2 on our screens. Waterloo, as we said, made their way over to blue side. However, looks like the bans are going to stay very similar in terms of what these teams prioritize.
Alrighty. Just as a heads up for everybody, if you're wondering how we got here in terms of the side select rules are the higher seed gets side select choice for the 1st, 3rd, and 5th game. So very different from a couple of other tournaments where typically loser gets choice in terms of side select, and obviously a pretty big boon if you come in as the higher seed. I think that's always one of the fun things about tournament organization, where it's like, how do we reward teams for getting to grand finals as a higher seed? Because there are just so many different ways you can do it. We cannot obviously do resets. I'm looking at every single fighting game player that has tried to suggest we do full bracket resets.
Yeah,
you guys are insane.
In a row. My God.
Yeah, or you do another best of 5 like the next day, and it's like you guys have never booked out an entire arena before, guys. It's fine. Jinx first pick. That's the only thing that matters this game, guys. We can just pack it up here.
I mean, that is what we were expecting, so not surprised to see that one. As the bans have stayed the same despite the sides swapping here. It is an advantage for Waterloo being the lower seed and being able to take game 1. They now have the advantage and now also have the opportunity to go over to that blue side. as it looks like San Jose State have, kind of realized in their head, hey, that last game, Waterloo, they scaled to late game. And they did a good job doing that. Let's do the same thing, and maybe we have the opportunity to win as well. They're locking in the Ornn and the Vhagar. Two lanes that don't have a lot of priority, but certainly can do damage in the late game.
My favorite part is that these are two champions. These are the most played champions of these two players in this tournament so far. Throughout the fall warm-up in Shurima, it has been Ornn for Mountains, and for the side of not Plex. I have this somewhere. Wow. Of Wend, it has been Vhagar Aurelion Soul. And the fact that they instantly slammed this, Vhagar was banned last time, and they were just willing to ban the Ornn as well. These are such good bans, or such picks coming out from Spartans. I think that we knew that game one was going to be a haymaker, right? Something that was going to throw a curveball at them and try to get them uncomfortable. They lost. So, hey, it's a best of 5. This is something that we were talking about earlier. The experience of being able to play in a best of 5, you have a couple games of leeway.
Yeah, and maybe that adjustment's going to help the Spartans a little bit if they can, reorient themselves and make sure that the picks that they are strongest on are the ones that they're going to be going for. And that is a Rengar to round out our first rotation, going over to Screwjank Clunker in the jungle. So already some very different stuff being thrown out by the Spartans. On the other side, Waterloo are kind of going with what they know best. They have the Victor here for Flex once again, and now without Screwjank Clunker picking up the Graves, it'll be Jess, definitely not Onat, selecting that one on 3.
We need to have like a grave skin, and we just put like the Vel'Koz definitely not eyes on him, or like Blitzcrank ones is like definitely not Onat. That'd be pretty good. Now, in terms of AD carries, this pool is going to start to get pinched. I think if you're Waterloo, you're getting rid of the Xayah like we see. You're also starting to think, can we get rid of Kai'Sa? Because those are things that can kind of really, really work well if we have an Ornn and a Vhagar. Worried here for Spartans, they don't have very many winning lanes yet so far. Vhagar is very good setup, but in mid lane, there's not a ton of brushes, so we're still waiting for that level 6 coming out from Screwjank Clunker, which is still time for Victor to get a couple items, to get a little bit more defensive in terms of itemization, and especially because we're talking about getting Lost Chapter around 6 minutes, 6 to 8 minutes, like Rengar is not going to be a threat at that point unless they're able to set up, and again, that requires for your support to be there.
See what the AD carry choice is for T. It is the Aphelios coming out here, as Waterloo have taken away both the Xayah and the Rakan on the other side. A very interesting draft right now. We have a lot of scaling champions that can do damage, of course, but maybe don't all work together as a whole. And definitely the early game is something that I'm going to have my eyes on for Waterloo to really take advantage of, depending on what they select here on the blue 4 and 5 pick. A Rel to match up alongside alongside Kalimkoi at support would make a lot of sense, and that's the K'Sante that you were talking about at the start of the show, Dimitri. Another pick that has been changed a little bit, not the same champion that you saw at Worlds.
Yeah, big one, you just can't Q flash, Q3 flash, so you can't just like flash knock up someone and they're like, what do I do? Game's over. This is a notoriously very difficult matchup for Ornn. I wonder with the numbers changes if this matchup has changed whatsoever. Probably have to go hit up Macro over at E West to see what his Ornn master guidelines kind of says about this. But playing this matchup myself, this matchup is incredibly difficult. Like, he has so many different knockups that you can't really, like, you can only block one of them with your W, right? Like, the timing on that, if this K'Sante player is playing any modicum of skill, they will just own you, and it is very difficult. You can't hit them with ultimate. You really require your jungler to be there. And so looking now at these compositions, we have a great 5v5 setup for us, right? We're talking about the Jinx and the Victor. Yet again, you have great setup with the Rel and the K'Sante, but now on the opposite side, they have Ornn to be able to access that backline without flash. You have Vhagar who's able to set up, and for me, Renata Glask is going to be one of the most important champions this game alongside the Vhagar. These two champions with their crowd control can lock up anything that Waterloo want to do.
You mentioned the Jinx attack speed at the start of the show and during that game number 1, and how it can definitely do a ton of damage after one excited proc. If you get it right. Throw the Renata ult out on there. Suddenly, that Jinx is hitting your own team, and that could get a little bit scary. So maybe that's the ultimate counter here from San Jose State.
So I've always wondered this, and I haven't been able to test it because, one, I don't play a ton of Jinx into Renata, but also it just never ends up happening. I think I've gotten close to it once. I don't think Jinx gets excited from killing your teammates, because the way that it's worded is killing enemy champions. It's not killing champions, because obviously there's no reason for Riot like 8 years ago to be like, what if you killed your own champion? Well, no one on our team does that, so don't have to worry about it for right now, fairly enough. But now that with Renata, there's a lot of questions, right? Like, does this interaction work? And hopefully, fingers crossed. Probably not fingers crossed, actually, if you are a Waterloo fan. But for San Jose, you're like, I really need this interaction to go off, because it'd be so funny to see a Jinx fully excited, just ripping apart the team.
Right. Gets like a 9, not a, what is it? Nana killing 9 champions in a row. You have to kill the enemy team and then kill everybody on your team immediately after. I'm excited. I want to see Earl Grey Tea with their dying breath throw out the ultimate just to make sure that as the pentakill comes through for KhazixMay, he is fully excited. 20 attack speed and just like runs through his entire team.
Now the way that we kind of get this headcanon to work is he needs to have the most damage. He can't go this Gale Force build. It's really cringe, I'm gonna be honest. We need to see like, we need IE, we need Runons. Runons is the best way for us to get this pentakill. I will also say Renata Ultimate doesn't have the highest amount of like uptime. That Berserk does not last all that long. So like they need to be like 40 HP on all of them, and this Brunon's proc needs to just like own every single one of them.
Yeah.
So
that just means that T needs to have a crazy Aphelios ultimate, Infernum, just destroying everybody, almost to 1 HP. But then he dies. Then KhazixMay kills Earl Grey Tea. Then he throws out the ultimate, and then everybody else on his team.
Let's get everybody involved here, right? So like we're San Jose, right? Yep. Ornn, he presses the ultimate button, or we're actually let's just say we're around Baron, right? We're coming in from red side. We've got the enemy team is starting to enter through the ramp brush that's on blue side on the opposite, closer to mid lane. They're walking in. Veigar Cage reveals all 5 of them. They're all stunned now. Ornn ultimate comes in. They get knocked up. He uses the E. They get knocked up again. They're all CC'd. Infernum ult comes in. Jinx somehow gets a pentakill. We need to somehow get to that point.
Yeah, Jinx moment. Jinx doesn't. Everybody except for Jinx is hitting that. All 4 of them except for KhazixMay.
All get hit by all the other abilities.
Yeah.
And then Jinx gets, super excited. They're turning the team fight. Everyone's kind of like running around. They're trying to like scramble. And then last breath, you see it. The Renata ultimate is coming. Callum has no flash. Boom, kills his entire team. Gets a super pentakill.
All right. Now, I mean, do we even have to watch the game? We already know what's going to happen.
No, we already know the super penta's coming. So like, what's the point now? Like we've done our job.
Yeah. It would be that would be maybe one of the craziest moments ever in a game of League of Legends if that does happen. So I would love to see it. I would love to see a close team fight, because that would mean it would be a 5-for-4. And it seems like both of these teams want a team fight and will be giving that to us as we're getting ready to head into game shortly between these 2 teams. Waterloo is up 1-0. If they could take this 2-game lead, it would mean a lot as we are getting ready to enter the Rift for Game 2 of our Shurima Division Finals.
Let's go! All right. We've got a 5-point setup. You don't have any cringe invaders. There's no level 1ers in chat. We've just got a beautiful 5-point. They're all just sitting there. Exhaustive is going to break the line of scrimmage. He's going to walk forward. He's going to do that Cassante thing where he kind of just makes it so your top laner can't play the game. This matchup is so difficult because Ornn has so few mobility spells, and it is very difficult for him to... Oh, never mind. Waterloo have lost the game. Guys, we've got to up our synergy here. I don't know how we both missed our... One of us was supposed to ward. Both of us did.
Guys, I'm warding. Oh.
Guys, we are both warding. The supervision.
Yeah, okay. Get double the vision on the enemy Raptors. They will be able to spot out Scrooge and Clunker there. But as we head back to the top lane matchup just for another second, I mean, even though some of the changes did come through on the Cassante, I mean, Inexhaustive, as soon as you get that Iceborne Gauntlet against a tank, pop the all out, and you're just able to run them down and do true damage to the tanks, which is very fun. So
it doesn't matter, by the way. That item does not matter in this matchup. Like, he just runs him regardless of the item. Like, at all stages of this game, this matchup... I mean, yeah, like getting the slow field, I don't think Ornn is going to be dealing damage to me, to be 100% honest, so it just makes it even more insufferable to try to play this one out.
Slow.
Like, look at this. Look at this. Level 2. Okay, never mind. Don't look. Stop looking. Stop looking. We embarrassed him.
Yeah, unfortunately for Exhaustive there, but you can see already he's built up a very significant CS lead. And unlike last game where Mountain and Renekton was able to have at least a little bit of agency, it seems like it'll be mostly an Exhaustive taking control of this one, as both junglers are abandoning the top side of the map and making their way down towards this bottom side, where we do have a little bit of an interesting interaction here between the Renata and the Ornn. Or Renata and the Rel, I should say.
They're hanging out. I mean, it should be difficult for Renata to find, or for Rel to find and engage, but I mean, Renata can only do so much, right? Like if you're stopping that engage, you're not stopping someone like Exhaustive walking into you. In early game, we're talking about potentially a Graves as well. You can only stop so many if they're trying to be a little bit more creative with some of their angles here. So don't think we're going to get too much out of our two junglers. There's not a lot of gank assists in terms of these two. We're really looking at how Jess and Zenden are going to be able to link up around mid lane because these two are so immobile between them. And, I mean, it's Rengar pre-6. There's not much. There is an electric... Whoa! Flash is blown, but Graves is here first.
Yeah, let's see how much Jess can do. The smoke screen already slowing down the San Jose State bottom lane. Oh, great T, remember, doesn't have flash and gets hit up by the Ignite. Zenden with another engage. T has to flash away.
Wait!
Bailout will save Earl Grey T's life as Scrooge and Clunker jumps in to save the day. T picks up another kill on the Kalimkor. They land the root on the Jess as well. And the Spartans turn this fight around 3-0.
That is a huge win there. The fact that they were able to stall out on the damage, no one was able to kill Earl Grey T, and then the bailout at the very last second. These guys are level 3. This is just a freshly popped ability, not available to them beforehand. Really, really great play coming out from Spartans. Just opens up the game so much for them. Almost 1,500 gold immediately available to them. They get a 2-0 Felios. The item difference between these two. The big thing that I think that changes how this matchup works between 280 carries is typically typically other 80 carries, you get some amount of your base stats, but it's not like incredible. It's mostly the amount of, spells. The thing for me, when you're leveling up as a Felios, you get so much bonus attack damage because of how your passive works and being able to choose whether it's attack speed, attack damage, or lethality. And now you have a Noon Quiver on top of that. This is going to be a massive win for them in the early game.
Saw the replay there in the bottom left corner of your screen. A really clutch bailout from Earl Grey T. If Kalimkor was able to pick up that kill, could have led to some resets and could have led to Jinx getting a little bit of extra attack speed and really turning that fight into their favor. But because of the fact that Earl Grey T was able to survive, no reset, and now a very different game state for both of these teams.
For sure. A lot of gold, and the thing that I'm going to be looking at is maybe how do we actually end up punishing this? Because you look at it, T doesn't have flash, doesn't have the cleanse either. You can look for re-engages, but you really needed Onat to find a different level of success on this Graves. That is a really big win for them, and setting up for the Dragon, right? We're talking about how important this Rengar can be. Like, that needs to be something that they need, that Waterloo should try to focus. If Rengar is able to get scaling, he's another jungler that, given gold, is similar to Rengar in that sense, but has a lot more assassination potential. Definitely a backline threat versus a Jinx.
Just pop that ulti and then boom, Jinx gone. So we'll see if that ends up, being a factor. Obviously a little bit more range this time than last game for San Jose State. So being able to collapse upon this Victor Jinx backline will be important, as we're going to see another skirmish maybe in the bottom lane. Scrooge and Clunker are going to get spotted out by the control ward, so no threat really for Waterloo. They know exactly what is going on, but now a bit of a taller task in order to try to get back into this game.
Oh no,
Though, they still were sitting in the ward, and they did not realize on the other side that the Spartans were going to walk right into that one. Kalimkor finally getting onto the board, as up on the top side, it's a solo kill for an Exhaustive.
That's a massive win, though, for Waterloo. Not only did they find that kill, but also Ornn just flashed and TP back to lane. So they're going to lose out on all this experience, all this gold as well. They're going to start to clamber back this gold that they had lost in that first fight that we saw. And for the side of the Spartans, they just get themselves a single dragon. Now, big thing for me, Grapes, is you are playing Rengar. The first two dragons are Chemtech and the Trojan Dragon, which means there's a possibility for us to lose all of our brushes and get an Infernal Soul.
Yeah, the biggest thing is also you don't get to get more brushes with the Ocean Dragon coming up next as well.
True.
So that's a little unfortunate here, as we can't take a look at this replay up on the top side of the map. Or
why did he walk back up?
More HP, but you gotta remember, Inexhaustive is playing the Cassante, can go all out just like that.
Do I even need to hit the Cassante boss, or does everyone know? You already know? Alright, cool. Here's that level 6, similar to something like a Nocturne. You get that flash out, and they actually bind it!
Yeah, big root on the Bola strike onto Plex. So Went's going to be the one to finish that kill, as Screwjack Clunker finds a nice kill and finds a nice engage and makes it 4-2 in favor of the Spartans.
Ooh, and look at this now. The invade into the enemy jungle just knows, hey, you're low on HP. I'm going to try to contest you on some of your camps here. They're actually waiting full HP, and look how much damage he's going to have. They are matching in terms of how much damage they have. Now, Screwjack Clunker does have a little bit more AD thanks to the Bone Tooth necklace. I just don't think it's going to be enough.
Not a lot of health, though.
Oh my god, no way!
That does mean Screwjack Clunker's able to jump away to the enemy Krugs and be able to escape. As Jess will still be able to pick up the red buff, so overall a win for Waterloo, but it could have been way worse. That kill, that ultimate I should say, did hit.
Alright, Grapes, we have to determine this right now. Was that an outplay or a misplay? We need to...
misplay.
Alright, well, sorry Onat, you got owned. The O-Nation is in absolute shambles, straight up liquidating the entire government. He's roll swap, it's chill.
It's chill. Still ahead in this game a little bit, for the side of Screwjack Clunker staying alive there. Would have been a relatively big turn for Onat / Jess if they were able to, pick up that kill. But even with the pressure alleviated a little bit, Waterloo going to be able to start off this Rift Herald with their dominating topside presence, and we'll see where they want to put it. Cassante could be a good option, or heading right back to mid to maybe put a stop to Went, who has had a very nice start to this game.
I feel bad for Callum because it's like, well, we could try to look for something mid. They were trying to, I like the look there from Zenden, recognizing that it's a very big wave shoving into Plex, and so they could potentially look for a dive with the Veigar, but instead, backing up, just supporting the mid, and then coming back down. Like, Callum is starting to lose out on a lot, and they don't know where Rengar is. They know that he finishes topside camp, so he should be on this side of the map. You already see that Callum, he was moving over to the Krug, seeing if they could do anything here. Jess is on their side of the map, so doesn't have to be too worried, but you always have to think in the back of your mind, like, where is Rengar? What are they doing? They finally get vision of him there after leaving the bottom side jungle, but still, there's so much worry for them. And now, 2 minutes before the dragon spawns, I want to see what Waterloo are able to do to set up this map, because they have the Rift Hill, they should be able to knock down plates, and they have great engage tools with something like a Rel.
It's a very interesting game state right now, because the top side is very much ahead for Waterloo, but the rest of the map, not so much like we saw in game number 1. So the Spartans have a good opportunity to make it a 2-dragon lead if they set up properly and make sure they play around their carries, Screwjack Clunker and T. Continue to see on the top of your screen, though, Inexhaustive really making Mountain's life miserable. That's the 3rd turn play that he's been able to take, and really going to make sure that he is a beast in the team fights later on.
It turns out you are not legally allowed to blind pick this champion. I'm glad that Inexhaustive is showing that. Went! Let's go!
Calculating that damage perfectly and just absolutely destroys him with the primordial burst.
Oh my... I've been solo killed by Veigar, but that's usually just because I'm playing AD carry. That was an impressive display of talent there coming out from Wentz. Showing off a little bit of that Veigar tech. Really good job. Did have to use his flash, so that's something that I'm going to be watching as we get closer to this dragon coming up in 45 seconds. You're already starting to see them starting to get their resets in, getting their items, making sure that they're going to be on point. I am now distracted because I looked at items and I see that Screwjack has decided to go for double Coalfields. And maybe they left the base. I don't know. This could be very easy.
I've definitely done that before, though.
This is by accident, where you're like clicking on an item too many times and you're like, I bought 2 now. All right, well, he does have a ton of ability haste, but definitely would have preferred to have maybe finished something like a Death Blade, or like the Dusk Blade or the Yomu's.
Is that a unique passive, the ability haste, or do you get...
No, that's on the item. That's on the item, I think.
Okay.
Let me go look. We have time.
That's a win. That's a win. Then you get some extra ability haste, can use those abilities faster, can have that ultimate up a little bit quicker, as well as now it is the Spartans going for a play. Went with a beautiful TP, combined with the Everfrost, goes on a killing spree as Callum uses both of his summoners and still dies. Moonlight Vigil comes out on the Jess. Kim and Zenden will have to flash away and the Spartans find a beautiful pick and a beautiful fight right at the Dragon spawn.
And the good thing here for Waterloo, I'm going to hold that. I think Waterloo's top laner is about to solo kill a mountain.
4,700 HP, 329 armor, 200 MR, and another kill onto Mountains. Inexhaustive, the shining light in a bit of a dark situation here for Waterloo Gold.
The win here for Waterloo is not only are they winning this topside matchup, but because of how much damage they're able to do, Spartans actually cannot start the Dragon on spawn there. So it gives them a little bit of a reprieve. They're already back out onto the map. They're actually pushing on different sides. So now, with this timer, Jess can move up into the top side, actually drops Rift Herald if he wants, or use this to go into mid lane and start to get down plates. He's got a minute before the plates are going to fall, and now Jinx is ready, already in position. I think this is a bit of a mismatch in terms of where you're putting your units, because, I mean, Renata's walking mid, this plate's already going to go down, and T was already pathing towards bottom lane, so Victor now just gets the farm for basically free at this point, and no one is punishing this.
Is going to be able to get the gold back in the lead of Waterloo, despite that play going very well for the Spartans to the bottom side of the map. Zenden getting rooted up, has to get away from here as, talk about the Victor being strong right now, Alk, but went on the Veigar as well. A very scary sight. If he does catch him out here, Zenden would have been in trouble. Okay. I don't think he knew he was spotted on a ward right there. That was a dangerous spot for the Rel.
Saved by the loading time of a Event Horizon. If that had come in instantly, if maybe they made Veigar Cage instantaneous, that's a kill right there.
Well, that would be broken.
Well, yeah, also very true, but that, like, you know, it feels instant when you're playing AD carry. You know, you see it and you're like, ah, it's already on top of me, I can't do anything. I either have to flash or it's over. Good win, I think, for a small win, I think, here for Waterloo as they find themselves a plate in the bottom lane before they go down, and really nothing is able to happen versus Zenden. Now, Dragon spawning in 3 minutes. We've got the Rift Herald spawning in 45. I want to see how they're going to be able to set this up, because you look across from them at the Spartans, you have a very strong Veigar, and Earl Grey is caught out with no flash.
Drops the hostile takeover, does send the Berserk onto 2, but without Callum Coy getting hit by the ultimate, that's an easy one to finish off the Renata. Here comes the Ornhorn. Mountain's going to knock up 3. That's a big turn right now, but with the ultimate coming out here, the
wait.
I was making a nice fight. However, here comes an Exhausted to clean up the kills, getting a shutdown onto T, and making it a 3 for 2 in favor of Waterloo Gold.
Shout out to Screwjank for finding a massive amount of damage in that backline, killing Jess first, but everybody is just, no one is focusing. The two carries here, Plex and Callum, are just free firing. Inexhaustive is able to join after roaming from the top lane, so a very big win coming in for Waterloo. This is before the Dragon, still 2.5 minutes. The Rift Hilt is up and available. They're respawned, they're back out on the map, and they're already here in the top side of the map. Went has solo killed Inexhaustive. That is 750 gold going over to this Veigar. Wow. Went is going to be so important for this team. The mid jungle for Spartans have taken this game 2 into their own hands.
Let's take a quick replay of that last fight, and then maybe we can see the solo kill a little bit after that. Callum Coy gets the first reset, and you can see they're finding nice engages here alongside Screwjank Conquer on the backside, but not the right focus, and the spacing is just too good on the other side.
Yeah, right here. This is the big mistake here. There's no reason for us to be walking forward here as a team. We just got the kill onto the Graves and the Rel. Back out. That is our call. That is us being a little too greedy on the side of the Spartans. San Jose, they're going to be going back and licking their wounds. A lot of summoner spells are starting to come up available for them in the next few minutes. Same could be said here for Waterloo as we look at Callum Coy with his flash being up soon. This Rift Herald is still available for them. And, I mean, you look at where the junglers are right now. Screwjank on the top side. You're going to be seeing Jess having already finished a lot of these camps. I think this should go over to Waterloo. They have no control of the top lane matchup, and Cassante is going to continue to be an issue.
Here's a solo kill right now.
There we go. How did this happen?
Oh, he went a little bit too far forward. You know,
okay.
You get your ego checked a little bit. Now, the one thing here is the fact that, you know, now with the Cassante changes, the W has to be fully channeled in any all-out form. That means you're standing still for a little bit longer. That does allow for Wet to get that solo kill there.
Yeah, also when you're hitting the all-out, you lose a lot of your resistances. You trade your resistances for straight-up damage. Yeah. So it is now the Rift Herald going over to the Spartans. They're looking to collapse here, however. Zenden could flip with a flank.
Flash. Magnus on the crash down comes out. They lock down Earl Grey T before he can issue his own Bailout now on the other side of the fight. Now
oh no!
Gonna get caught up by Exhaustive a little bit, but he gets rooted up and will not be able to find a kill. Moonlight Vigil does come out though. ST has the red and white guns. He's a 1-for-1 so far. Watch Grushenk Clunker on the other side though. Zenden gonna get captured by the cat as he jumps over the wall to pick up the second kill of the fight for his team. Looking for more though. Moonlight Vigil already
they
has
can't
the
see
lead,
the
so
near
not a
side.
ton. Callum Coy still untouched. He has to flash away, waiting for the reset. Not able to find it just yet. They flash forward, and a big shutdown comes forward onto the Veigar. Callum Coy unstoppable and unlocked here as he
wait.
in bush. A nice death right from Flex to make sure that Grushenk Clunker does not find any engage, and Waterloo suddenly have a big lead.
Huge win, and I want to shout out Onat on this Graves. The nearsighted there, sitting in that small crevice where they can't actually walk through. A really good choke point coming out for Waterloo Gold. As because of that, it means that T cannot walk forward with the red and white. They're actually going to re-engage with them under the turn. Earl Grey, I mean, just getting caught out time and time again. This Renata ultimate is just, it's hitting me. It's hitting your dog back at home, Graves. Like, it's just straight up missing. They now have free access to the dragon. Waterloo are coming out big with the wins.
My dog's like 108 miles away from me right now. That's pretty impressive.
That's where it
wins.
It
ultimate.
Right
yeah.
there.
God. Okay, Earl Grey T. Unable to find that hostile takeover. It will be that dragon secured by Waterloo. That was an area where the Spartans actually did have an advantage. And now T in a lot of trouble as the Hex Flash comes out for Zenden. A beautiful engagement. The Super Mega Death Rocket not enough as Grushenk Clunker comes in and takes down the Jinx. Callum Coy is shut down. And now it's the numbers advantage. The Spartans are looking to go forward. You're in charge. Gonna get taken down here as the ultimate goes through for Wentz and not able to take down an Exhaustive.
All right, so this game is getting messy right now. San Jose, with a single line of play, lose a massive chunk of their gold lead. But Grushenk Clunker says, I don't care, I'm not losing this game. This is a straight up jungle diff. I am going to own this guy, and he does not want to lose this. Neither does Went. Went is doing a fantastic job. You can see the gold lead on their side, Exercise, being absolutely countered right now by what's happening in the top lane. Mountain is thankful that he is playing Ornn right now because this would be otherwise an unwinnable game from this position if he didn't have the base utility of something like an Ornn. But this game is only going to get harder and harder for the Spartans. There's going to be more items. There's going to get more and more HP for the opponent. So he needs to pick his fights and pick them well because he dies a single time and this game just completely ends for San Jose.
It's almost a wombo combo versus just a very consistent front to back that we're looking at here. San Jose State, if they can pop all their ultimates at the right time, they can find a way to dive onto the backline carries with Grushenk Clunker. That is how they win these fights. It's a little bit easier to execute than we saw in game number 1 where we were saying very similar things. So that is the one thing that is keeping my hopes up here for the Spartans a little bit. Grushenk Clunker has been able to dive into Callum Coy as we saw in that last engage, and now has proc the ultimate again. Ornhorn sounds off. Flex in a lot of trouble right now. Wow, this Rengar is very, very strong.
Jesus Christ, that is absolutely nuts. That's part of the, this is not like a Dark Harvest Rengar. This is a straight up electrocute, one-shotting the build. Like, that's insane. And because they were all bot lane, guess what? They get that they're going to just straight up go for the Baron here. They recognize they're in a bit of a problem here. Good job with the Renata ult to split the fight.
Callum got knocked up by the Baron. It does buy enough time for San Jose State to take down an Exhaustive and make their way over the Nash. It's a 3v5. The main carries here for Waterloo are still alive. Zenden gonna have to stick around to this one if they want to save the objective from going down. Teleport coming in. Flex has respawned and will be joining the fight.
Oh, wait, Jess!
On the Jess, but the Moonlight Vigil comes out but doesn't do enough damage. A huge Magnus Storm from Zenden, and the Super Mega Death Rocket will mean that Callum Coy will go crazy here in this fight. It's a double kill. He gets slowed down a little bit, lands the zap, no, barely missed it on the Went, but it does not matter. It's a triple kill for the Jinx, and Waterloo will win the fight around the Baron.
That was such a tight timing for the Spartans to be able to find themselves a win. Grushenk Clunker doesn't have vision of the pit, has ultimate coming up, also has flash. Inexhaustive needs to find where the jungler is right now, is trying to stay in vision, and they're going to prevent the steal. Waterloo are going to mount a very big comeback here. We haven't really talked about it, but it was a similar story to game 1 of this series where come 3 items, Waterloo are going to be in such a fantastic spot. Inexhaustive is getting close to that point. Callum Coy is finishing his 3rd item soon, And Plex, it doesn't really matter. He should just be going for a Zonius to make sure he doesn't get one shot. This is getting more and more difficult. And we talked about it, right? Like, they needed to find their spot, pick their fight, and unfortunately, they spent way too long. They're getting owned by the Baron the entire time that they're sitting in the pit.
And it seemed like a good fight for the Spartans to take while they did have the numbers advantage. It was a 5v3 before the teleport from Plex came in. But the carry is just too much. I mean, that's just how Jinx works in this current meta. Aphelios, while a very strong team fighting champion, doesn't really have the numbers right now. And now just finally completing that Infinity Edge where Callum had it for that last fight. And yeah, for San Jose State, we can take another look at this replay. Zenden with a huge play here on the engage, and then Callum was just able to clean up afterwards.
I'll be honest, I think that this Renata has not been good right now. Like, we talked about the missing ultimate, that was fine. I think that time it was fine. You know, you split up the fight, it was a perfectly good one, but here, I mean, they knocked away the Jess here. They had them locked up with the Q, with the handshake, and then pushed them away. So a lot of the damage was missing. They couldn't actually burst out that target. If maybe they're able to find that kill, it opens up a numbers advantage for the side of the Spartans. And now San Jose, they can walk up, they can clear this turret, they can move in to grab themselves a dragon and put themselves at 2. And it's just so problematic at this point, right? Because it is a game where you really need this Vanguard to be far ahead, and he is at this point, but we haven't really seen what we can, all that we can get out of them. And I think that their battle lines that they've been drawing have been a little less clean than what we're getting from Waterloo.
I mean, it makes sense as well, just because of the fact that Waterloo's team comp and just is so good at fighting front to back. You have 3 big damage dealers and then a big front line with the Rel and the Cassante. With the Baron power play, they're able to get the second dragon, and Callum able to get another tower for themselves. Gold lead now at 3,500 or so, as the Spartans once again starting to lose control of this game despite having a bit of an early lead.
What an interesting game. I think Waterloo showing a lot of resiliency, and obviously someone that is shot calling them to victory, kind of giving them a great game plan to play around. And Spartans, I think, feeling a little bit lost. Oh, wow. I think that so far okay, we're just going for a Fnatic Death Brush. There's no way anybody saw them here. Now they can try to find a flank. They need to pick one angle. They cannot try to find multiple. And now we're just playing on separate battle lines now.
Shirelias, he's going in. The target is Plex, but they all flash away. Now we're playing Australian mode right now in terms of the way
it's upside down.
Screwjack Clunker still looking around. He's hiding in a bush behind them. A big chunk of damage lands on the Plex. Ornhorn will only find 2. The hostile takeover will be flashed away from Callum Point. He'll be able to stay alive. Magnus Storm is huge on the other side, but T almost takes down Plex, but will go down despite the stopwatch in. Callum Coy has himself a triple kill and is excited and looking for more. It's a quadra kill, and now Screwjack Clunker's the only one left. Will they be able to find it in the finals of CLO warm-up? It looks like the answer is no, as Waterloo have other plans. But another fight, as Spartans, they went for the play, but just rapidly punished.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest, Grapes, that was pretty bad. that was the most desperation play I've ever seen so far, and it has just been. They are looking for something. They are looking for absolutely anything at this point. Screwjack, I was worried there, but he had to just stand and kind of watch. There was no way for him to jump in. There's nothing for him to be able to do. And they lost so much because of having to try to flash forward, trying to find those picks around the Raptor camp. And unfortunately for San Jose, it means that they lose out on 4 members. The base is starting to get broken open, and now we've got a dragon spawning in 2.5, a baron spawning in 1.5 minutes, and now you have no summoner spells to be able to play for this fight. Such a difficult spot to play from. And now Waterloo, they said, hey, you guys can straight up own our bottom lane at level 3. We don't really care. We're going to be the better team fighting team. We're going to have better battle lines. We're going to be able to set up ourselves.
Okay.
They say that Callum's caught, shut down onto him. Screwjack does not want to lose.
Yeah, Everfrost comes in on the Plex. 2 carries are down on the side of Waterloo, and Screwjack Clunker just wins that fight on his own. But now looking to help out his jungler, but Cassante doing Cassante things, and Inexhausted will take down the Rengar. Gets another one back as the Cassante ran into the event horizon. Still not over just yet, Alkins. We're getting some crazy fights.
All right, Screwjack Clunker, he did the thing. I was very worried because we had only seen the last like 10 minutes. We just wasn't finding kills. I thought, okay, we got to the point where Rengar, you just group around all of your team members and Rengar can do absolutely nothing. but finally are able to make that. And Jets should be going down here. That's the flash invested. That's another turret falling. I mean, good picks from them. It stops Waterloo from starting up the Baron. And while the shutdown does go over, I think it's a worthwhile trade. Remember how important this Veigar is going to be to buying space. Putting down the Event Horizon just stops so much of Waterloo and how much they want to move.
Yeah, we've talked about Scrooge and Clunker having a very good game, but Wentz also now 8-3-4. Jets finishes off a death cap. If we can hover over his champion just to see how much AP he currently has at this moment, that would be a really interesting thing because we are getting to that point in the game. Scrooge and Clunker, oh no. He's looking for it again. Oh, Callum Coy, you are going a little bit too far forward, my friend. Might have to watch out. Who will the target be? The target will be the victor instead, actually, as that is another one-shot by the Rengar. 4 completed items and a ton of kills for his team.
That's a massive win for them. That is a victor that is no longer available in the fight. We'll have to see if Callum Coy can actually get that damage down that we were expecting for them. Now makes this Baron dance a little bit more difficult. I think Dragon is such a low priority objective at this point. Neither team is getting a soul. It will put them at the soul point, so it gives them an additional 5 minutes of breathing room. But Spartans, they're backing up. And I wonder if this is just because they don't have perfect vision as to where some of the members are. But these camps just don't matter. We're giving over the dance for this Baron. And Plex is respawning in 10 seconds, has the teleport as well. They needed to move in, secure vision, and stop Waterloo from doing anything. But they just spent too much time kind of just idling.
Yeah, now with Plex back, not really an opportunity to go for any of the objectives. The target will be the Dragon that has just spawned. It would be soul point for either of these teams if they can pick it up. Look at Scrooge and Clunker going on another mission. Plex again has been targeted. That's just not fair, man. Right out of the base, they get another kill onto the victor. Ornhorn sounds out as now it's a 4v5 in favor of Spartan as soon as Scrooge and Clunker get back into the fight. It exhausted buys a lot of time. Oh, look at the Magnus Storm. Look at the damage. Callum Coy with a huge fight here for Waterloo. They get all 4 members as Scrooge and Clunker have to watch the rest of his team fall.
Look, Scrooge and Clunker, he uses his entire kit to kill Plex, and Plex is like, that's cool. Well, guess what? Your whole team is getting owned right now. The Spartans, they were fighting in a very good kind of trajectory there. We're looking at the terrain of the fight. I'm sure we'll take a look at it during the replay. But now, I mean, they get a Baron for themselves. Jinx will be able to reset, finish another item. It looks like their next item is actually going to be the Guardian Angel as well. So this champion is just going to get tougher and tougher to try to take down. Jinx was not doing damage at the beginning of that fight, but they all grouped up. Zenden coming up clutch for their team with a massive Magnet Storm.
Yeah, that was a huge play from Zenden. We've seen multiple incredible Magnet Storms, incredible engages from this support. Support that's been around the team for a few years at this point, has been able to go in and out of the starting roster since 2021, stepped aside as Callum Coy moved down to support in 2023 season, but now back together with his former marksman partner, has done a great job in helping his AD carry get ahead and win some big fights for his team here in the warm-up finals.
All right, so Grapes, I do not think we are getting our Jinx pentakill dream of 9K the whole quad, but oh my! Went! They have these.
We have one-shot capability on the other team, which means that the pentakill, hexakill, whatever situation might not necessarily happen because one of them might be dead just by Screwjank or Went just pressing all their buttons.
Respect to Went, by the way, for showing off that they understand what Veigar needs the most, and a lot of that is just movement speed. You are going to be a champion that scales regardless if you're hitting champions, right, with the phenomenal evil. So building the moon plate here just lets Veigar get into position to actually deal the damage that he needs to. They should have just stopped this. Went should have just flash Everfrosted this fraud and just killed him, but Callum gets the recall for some reason. And now we're seeing a pretty interesting game state where Spartans are playing on the side lane with Screwjank Clunker. They're using him as a split pusher because they know no one else can match this guy. This champion will just own anybody that walks up on them. And now Screwjank using the ultimate, the low cooldown on it to just walk around the map and get out and escape.
Man, this is a very interesting game right now because in terms of a raw 5v5, I mean, obviously Waterloo win. We've seen that happen a bunch of times. It's the picks, though, on the other side that are causing a little bit of disruption in terms of the Warriors being able to end this game. You have Scrooge and Clunker and Went both able to one-shot almost anybody on the enemy team, except for maybe an Exhaustive or Jess if they don't get the right situation. So the crucial carries definitely have to be very careful. Plex has been caught out a number of times, and we see the GA now on Callum Coy as well. Screwgen Conquer still kind of on a solo mission right now, as the rest of his team is around their own mid lane inhibitor turret. There's no objective to fight for just yet, so we're just getting a little frisky without any major objectives available.
That ward right there is putting in so much work. That single ward, thank you to our vision toggle from our observers, they're showing off a lot of what Waterloo can actually see, what the Spartans can see. On the opposite side, Inexhaustive is just continuing to split push. They recognize that they have the Baron, that if no one is going to come and match, that I'm just going to continue to push, and it allows for them to continue to do as we see here. The winning part of this for the Spartans is that the waves are not matched up, so this Baron was really just used as we got a few turrets, but really not going to be able to open up all that much. Screwjank, I think, should be using this position now to try to find a flank. And immediately, the Spartans are trying to immediately collapse on this. They're going to go to where the Hextech portal is.
Up to the ultimate. It's a bit of a wild goose chase. You don't really know exactly where Screwjank Clunker is as soon as the ultimate is popped. So it looks like he'll be able to escape for now. Baron not spawning for the 2.5 minutes or so.
Oh no.
That they can continue to just pop the ultis and cause disruption around the map.
Right now, they're just buying time. This is giving Ornn time to get experience so they can get Ornn items. We talked about the scaling here. When you have Ornn items, it definitely helps being able to match like a Victor or a Jinx. And when you need every little bit of damage, especially when you're behind in terms of the items, you need anything at all. Maybe they try to find a play here, but Screwjank is nowhere nearby, and Waterloo are just opening the base.
They're pushing down mid, and remember, when Jinx is excited, can just take one turn. That's all they need. They one-shot. So on the other side is Wen is able to pick up that kill. Ornhorn lands onto an Exhaustive Ascendant, but the carries are still alive for Waterloo. Screwjank Conqueror has gone back to base, uses the Hex Gate to get onto a flank as a big
this is Event Horizon!
Have to fight forward, a 3-man steering charge at a mountains, and here comes Screwjank Conqueror on the backside. They immediately one-shot the Victor. They force the flash out of Callum Coy, but the Jinx is still alive, and T will fall. It's a 4v3, but the Jinx is still untouched. Mountains cannot find the engage, as Screwjank Conqueror has himself a double kill. It is the bottom lane of Waterloo against 4 from the Spartans, and the Dragon is spawning in 13. Looks like San Jose State are going to go towards it.
Oh my god, Went. It takes a single one of these abilities to land.
Went gets knocked up, he gets stunned as well. Callum Coy still will not die.
Guardian Angel.
Guardian Angel does get popped, and now San Jose State can go for the Jinx. A shutdown finds the hand of Earl Grey T, and it's an ace for San Jose.
T needs to buy his jungler dinner, lunch, whatever he wants today, because this guy is straight up carrying them throughout this best of 5. Game 2 here is all Screwjank, Clunker, and Wen. The mid jungle for the Spartans for San Jose State University are carrying this team across the finish line, regardless of if the enemy team has Jinx, regardless as if your top laner is losing. This Rengar Veigar are just destroying everybody. 12-1, 10-4. They are one-shotting everybody on the map. And Plex has learned his lesson. He knows. He walks outside of his base. I'm getting one-shot by this Rengar, man.
Just staying in his base, waiting for the rest of the squad to pull up. Callum Coy respawning in 3 seconds as Jess, looking to at least gain a little bit of pressure around the Baron, as that is spawning soon. And with the Hextech Soul now available for San Jose State, it makes the one-shots a little bit more potent. It helps T stay alive in this game. And now a good opportunity to maybe push for this Baron. Jess will spot out Earl Grey T as the rest of San Jose State make their way towards the Baron pit. And I would not be surprised if they are actually the ones to start this up.
Okay. We've got Baron. They've got Hextech Soul as well. So we talked about that damage amp. Look, Callum, he's got an item ahead of his opponent, but his opponent has a Hextech Soul. They have an upgraded Infinity Edge as well, so a lot of damage available. And Went now. One thing here, Jess, no flash, but now they're in a
flash away from the Event Horizon, but now Went is a little bit vulnerable, but it does not matter when he has a million ability power. The jungler for Waterloo is down, and in a 4v5 situation, it is the Spartans turning their eyes towards the Baron Nashor. Went looking to chase down a little bit more, finds the Event Horizon, not going to look for a target, and instead, it will be the Baron started up.
There's nothing for them to do. They can't contest this objective. The Spartans have scaled grapes. We talked about how important this team could have been. Hey, look, Waterloo, you got Victor and you got Jinx, but these champions don't do anything versus a very, very fed Veigar. And our question was going to be, is this Rengar going to have the same impact that we really wanted for them? Are they going to actually have real backline access? Or are we going to have a repeat of game 1 where they're trying to kill certain members, but they just cannot get rid of this Jinx? And that has been fully realized in this second game in the series. The Spartans have come alive, and now Waterloo on the back foot have to get real creative with how they're winning this game, because Jess is not going to deal any damage versus his team. And Victor has been straight up fodderized by this Rengar. So it's all eyes on Callum at this point. This Jinx needs to get excited and needs to be able to win them a game.
And at this point in the game, there's not a ton of major objectives to fight for, so in theory, Waterloo should be able to really stall this out for a little bit more. And by that point, if Callum can have his flash back up, if Plex can somehow get a death cap into his inventory, that is where you're looking for Waterloo to maybe turn the fight around. San Jose State, they don't have a ton of great sieging tools with the Baron in their hands, unless you have the Caliber from T right now, but I mean, you're looking for a fight, and I don't know if Waterloo's going to give it to them all.
Callum's so afraid right now. Although I will say, Callum, you probably should be a little bit closer with your team, because you do not want to be, if the Rengar was on that side of the map, you're getting owned. They did have vision of them. They already saw that they're playing from this 4-1. They're having the Rengar play on this opposite side of the map. Zenden's having such a difficult time trying to find and engage.
Jank.
And Clunker, he's running straight for the back line. He's just going to clear out this bottom wave. And Waterloo are going to continue to find themselves in this disgusting cycle of, does Rengar have ultimate? Cool, we're having to group up. Can I actually walk up past my base? Probably not, because there's an Ornn ultimate coming for me, and I don't have flash.
As soon as that ultimate is pressed from Scrooge and Clunker, everybody on Waterloo knows they got to get the hell out of there, because one of them is going to die if they don't. And so that is the play of Bloodthirster now in the hands of Scrooge and Clunker, as him and Went are both at full builds. Nobody on the side of Waterloo, except for an Exhaustive on this Cassante, has that full set of items. We saw Callum actually sell his Guardian Angel and is looking for another damage item potentially. A BT could be helpful, or maybe working his way back towards that GA as soon to come off the cooldown.
True. We'll see. Went does have flash again.
Oh, look at the flash!
There's no one here.
Engage coming out from Zenden. Flex going forward, able to find Earl Grey team, and now they might have caught out even more.
No way!
The carry Went is going to not go down.
What?
It is a 1v2 that Inexhaustive did not win. Overall, 2-1 in favor of Waterloo. A huge engagement of Zenden might have found an opportunity for them to end the game.
And now they need to be able to go for this. Scrooge and Clunker not recalling quite yet. Remember, they still have these Hex Techs, but there are no flashes available for Zenden. Trying to find this pick on the there's no flash available for Went here. This is such a tough position here. Screwjank now has ultimate, but he's getting
misses. But the one shot still comes through. Wet takes down Callum Goy, and in comes Screwjank Walker. Dominating now on the Rengar as Plex goes down, and Jess and Zenden have nowhere to go except to a game number 3 with the series tied at 1. It's an ace coming through for the Spartans as they teleport into the top lane and look to end the game.
And now Zenden, with how much AP he has, these auto attacks, even has the Elixir of Sorcery. So he's doing 750 damage auto attacks to these inhibitors, to these structures here. Should be able to end the game, but look at who's coming up. I mean, the next one up is Inexhaustive. We'll have to see what he can do here. Full HP, Cassante, the turret is just slowly going down. They're ignoring the mid lane at this point. They wanted to be able to try to make an outplay happen.
Yeah, Inexhaustive is tanky, but I don't know if he has enough to 1v5 at this point. Callum respawns in 10, and that's not nearly enough time to save the game. The San Jose State Spartans are going to come back in this series and even up our Shurima Division Finals at 1 game apiece.
I was worried, Grapes. I thought that this series was going to be a 3-0 with what we were seeing. Toppling was getting owned. The Jinx was looking OP. But they made it happen. Screwjank just said, give me Rengar, a pick that I thought was a little questionable. I didn't know if you were going to be able to really see the full extent of this champion. But if Jinx is in meta, if you're going to be B1 in this, you have to be afraid. And I love that it came off the back of them moving towards comfort yet again, of getting Went the Veigar.
You mentioned the fact that, you know, if you're going to let Jinx up, you should at least leave the Jarvan available on the other side. It was a bit of a different strategy in doing it the same way, right? Where you have the Rengar coming through for Scrooge and Clunker, and instead of, using the Cataclysm onto the Jinx, she just one-shot her, and it does even better. So that was a really nice strategy.
Jinx actually does no damage if she has 0 HP. Turns out that's pretty impressive. Really cool stuff there, but I mean, just all in all, what a great game coming out from San Jose. They played with a very strong early game. I think their mid game is a little bit of a question mark for me, as we need to see them kind of step it up a little bit. But I think from game 1 to game 2, biggest glow up for me is Went. This guy went from playing Singed like Keck W to playing a Veigar and it being very PogChamp.
Yeah, I mean, a very back and forth game as well. We saw multiple instances where we thought Waterloo was going to actually just come away with this one and win. K'Sante doing K'Sante things, and Kalimkoi going crazy later game. But San Jose, they kept things alive. I mean, this fight, it seemed like all the pieces were working well for San Jose State. Waterloo still came out on top. This is where I thought the game was really going to just go in favor of Waterloo. That was not the case. It was a really nice turnaround. It saved this game and a big save.
I was very excited to see how they were playing for the side of Waterloo, but Spartans, I mean, compositionally, we talked about how difficult it was going to be if we actually got those straight on 5v5s, and while they did end up losing, I did want to give highlights out to players like Senden, who found amazing engage ultimates when we were seeing them actually play it out, and also for Callum, who, despite a pretty tough situation, was always looking to try to maximize DPS, but in a composition like this, you are always target number 1. I think after those like 2 deaths outside of the base, Plex was just kind of like, well, I can't do anything because, again, I'm a Victor without Flash. It's so difficult for me to step up in these situations.
I mean, we're eventually going to get to the point where this is Veigar and Rengar one-shot compilations in the replays.
Yes.
We haven't gotten there just yet, but a lot of really impressive fights on both sides here. Kalimkoi going crazy here. I thought this was going to be the Penta moment, maybe not the Nana kill moment that we alluded to, but I mean, overall, very back and forth game, a lot of kills, a ton of blood being shed. That makes me more excited for how the rest of the series is going to go.
Oh, for sure. Oh, for sure. It gives us a little bit more to work with as well, just because the Spartans coming into this series, I think, should be at a disadvantage. The top lane matchup in itself has been instrumental in both of these games. K'Sante this time around for an exhaustive being a very big pick for him, and him being able to actually take control of the top lane. But even with this bot lane as well, I mean, Kalimkoi and Zenden have been taking advantage of T and Earl Grey throughout most of these games. And so we really need to see what more we get, because this was one time on Veigar. Like, this is really impressive. When we saw it banned in the first game, I think this is just a reminder for Waterloo. Okay, cool, we need to keep this banned. We need to make sure that this Veigar is taken away. And maybe we'll see something a little bit different around the jungle situation.
Yeah, I don't know if the Rengar was even necessarily something that we had on our in the back of our minds. It was
Definitely not.
Things like the Graves and the Hecarim, the farming jungles, even Talia, that have been really strong for San Jose State so far in this series. But you see the end of the KDA, 15, 1, and 12 coming through for the Rengar. The mid jungle for the Spartans, keeping our series interesting.
Good. That's what I wanted to see. And honestly, it just makes it these grand finals. We're there now. It's 1-1 apiece. It's now coming down to the last 3 games here, and for the Spartans and for Waterloo, they're gonna have to dig deep, right? They're gonna have to try to find something. Spartans already going to a best of a full 5 games up against Converse just yesterday, where Waterloo, they did their 3 games, wiped their hands, and they're like, cool, we're just waiting. We do not have to worry about this right now. We could just think about our next opponents.
Yeah, I mean, what a gauntlet that is. 2 best-of-5s in a row, and it looks like this one's going to be just as competitive as the one that the Spartans played against Converse yesterday. So back-to-back. I mean, that game actually also ended like very late at night, so it's a quick rest into going into this one, kind of in the middle of the afternoon over there.
Yeah, the way that worked, it was pretty tough. That was a full 5 games. They did their thing, and you have an hour afterwards to be able to pick your side since they're the higher seed. So they definitely got a lot of their work cut out for them, and we get a cool replay here. We get to take a look at the one of the last fights here. As I mean, this was such a dire situation, right? Like, the amount of damage this Veigar is doing. This is why I hate playing against this champion.
just watching exactly where things unfolded and kind of went for the worst.
Oh my
and
god.
Kalimdor did duel this out a little bit, but it just doesn't matter. I mean, the mid jungle for the Spartans was just too strong.
The Edge of Night blocking the Cassante pushback. So, like, he's still being a threat onto Callum. They chase them out of the jungle. And Callum, I mean, the amount of damage, like, again, this is just Veigar. This is just Veigar. The Veigar stun, literally 2 abilities. WQ one-shots him. They get the Renata bailout. He comes out of the bailout and still passes away. Like, there's just nothing for this champion to do in this situation, especially when we're playing in such tight corridors as the jungle. And now we get to see what is the prep going into Game 3. What do the strategies look like for these two? And now for San Jose, can they keep this momentum going?
Tied at 1 game apiece right now between these two teams. San Jose State, they look pretty good. They had their early games kind of in the right place a lot of the time, and then they actually were able to close it out off of some miraculous plays from their mid jungle. We're getting ready for game number 3, but before we do so, we're going to step aside for just a few minutes. We'll be right back to see who takes the finals between Waterloo and San Jose State.
Did end up kind of coming in at a very surprising point in the draft. You could have been able to take away the Rakan. You could have also just gone for the Aphelios, but now you're just going to get outranged. You're going to have a very tough time walking into this team. Good job coming out from the Spartans. Their bot lane are definitely leveling up throughout this series. That first game was very rough for them, and even coming into game 2, maybe it was just a jinx dip. Maybe this champion is just a little too strong. We just need to get rid of it.
Yeah, and a little bit of a better matchup potentially. It is T getting ahead a little bit. We have the Moon Quiver now in inventory. That's going to help the Xayah a ton, and we saw what they could do in terms of team fights last time around. They were on this champion, that huge Blade Caller Flash combo, getting himself a triple kill and saving that game, at least extending it for a little bit longer, definitely will help out. Now the Spartan is still in a good position, is actually now getting a push into the mid lane, has Earl Grey Tea around to make sure that he's not punished by somebody like Jess in the area. Throws out the dredge line to make sure that Plex does get away, and actually this Kayle has survived the early game a lot better than I would have expected.
Yeah, I mean, it probably was just a wave that was stacking under their turret and finally got it to push back against the Ahri. It's going to be their first recall here as well, so we'll see what kind of itemization they're going to be going for. I would assume that you just want Berserker Greaves. I love that we have the damage numbers ticking because it just means that Scuttle is just 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1 constantly. It's really funny to watch. And yeah, we're just getting full clears from our two jungles. Really haven't had too much of a influence on many of our lanes. But, I mean, Onat showing up here on the Maokai kind of sapping a little bit of XP from his top laner. There's really not much for him because this wave is going to get pushed under the turret. The wave is going to bounce. You have the next wave coming in soon as well, so it's really difficult for this wave to crash, especially before they're able to get any items. And because they're playing Ornn, you can just take a look at the itemization. Already has the Bramble Vest. This is not going to get any more difficult or any easier for an exhaustive.
It's gonna, yeah. I mean, that's kind of a prerequisite if you're playing up against a Fiora. You need that Bramble Vest to even stand a chance in any potential 1v1, or at least prevent an exhaustive for going for an aggressive kill or something like that. He did use the teleport to get back to lane where Mountains did not. That's a bit of an advantage here for the side of the Spartans, especially if they want to fight for like a second dragon or something along those lines. We do see level 6 unlock for Went, so that will mean that he's able to farm from range and at least make sure that he can keep up the range advantage. It's not in this like range versus melee matchup. Now, head slash forward from Great. It's on to Zenden as Screwgen Clunker also in the way. That's just going to be another kill coming in for T, a 3-0 lead in the bottom side.
I mean, Zenden, not only a bit of a mistake there in terms of positioning, but also using the handshake and throwing Nautilus closer to you to get the auto attack range. I think it's a pretty massive mistake. It ends up being the kill there again. So a 3-0 T. This is not a kill where it's spread out across our supports. Lulu's not bugging out the game. They're actually going to try and punish this now. Level 5 here for Jess and no flash. Earl Grey has to do so much here.
Already flash up with the Twisted Advance. T has a shutdown on his head, and so it will be Callum Coy picking it up. Earl Grey T has to walk away using the Riptide to try and buy some space, and will be able to do so. However, Flexed on his way down. This is Power the Ahri that we were talking about coming into the draft. Dredge line does miss. Spirit Rush out, and it should be a pretty easy kill onto Earl Grey T. The time goes wide though, and actually Nautilus is going to try his best to escape. Another Progress Spirit Rush does come through, and it will be Plex securing the gold.
I'm so sad now. That Ahri charm made me very... whatever, he got the kill in the end. It's all that matters. Ends up getting that one for themselves. It's a pretty delayed death as well. I think if you're Earl Grey, you really need to just be able to kind of die very fast so you can get back into your matching. But hey, respawn timers are very low. Remember, they actually changed the death spawn timers throughout the entire game to be a little bit shorter, so you're not spending all of that time in grayscale, and allows for the side of Earl Grey to not really get all that punished. Now, the trade there was that Went crashed a pretty massive wave in mid lane, was able to catch up a little bit in terms of experience, so doing well for themselves in that instance.
Big thing though is the shutdown that came on to T off of that play. Callum Coy picking up 600 gold, and then Flex actually getting another kill onto Earl Grey T down there. I think actually the way that it works in that situation, because of the shutdowns that ended up coming through, in theory, Waterloo have gotten more gold off of kills than San Jose State has at this point, because sending was worth a little bit less upon second death and things like that. It doesn't necessarily matter though, but it is a very even game state as we're looking at the gold lead, and now we see Waterloo being able to take down this Rift Herald pretty much uncontested.
Yeah, there's not much for the Rengar to do. We haven't seen as much of an influence here. I'm getting distracted by the Scuttle Crab, man. Look at him. He's just pinging off ones. And for the most part, kind of just letting Jess do what they want. This is Onad on the Maokai, but like, you just have the ultimate still available. They got to level 6 without much of pressure. Now, Screwjank is level 7. We need to see them do stuff, because if you're just going to farm versus a Maokai and you're not going to cross the river, you're not going to cross into your lanes, this is just such a tough game to play, because now you're going to be looking, where's mid lane? What is their Ahri doing? The Ahri can move with Spirit Rush and using her W. The Foxfire gives her so much movement speed. They're not going to collapse onto this bottom side. Callum Coy has ultimate, but Zenden does not. If they're able to get this Renata ult, it's going to be a very good collapse for them. Oh, we're just getting a team fight. Okay, T getting the knock up, but not really able to do much there. They're already taken down. Callum Coy's hit the lightning crash, and they're just letting it rip. Flex as well still has so many Spirit Fire procs. The dash is going to be going in. They miss out on the Q, and it's going to be maybe another kill here onto Earl Grey T. That is insane. They got so many kills. They did end up losing the dragon, but I think you're going to take that if you're Waterloo.
Yeah, definitely there. Sorry about that. I'm back right now in that situation, but we do have a big fight win there for Waterloo despite the dragon going down for San Jose State. Callum Coy able to do a ton of work in that last fight as they caught T out from the very start, and that was one of the big carries on the side of the Spartans.
Well, you didn't miss much, Grapes. Don't worry. Like it was a pretty cut and clear fight. Well, a big win coming out here for Waterloo is no summoner spells now on Went or T, so those are things that they can try to punish, and especially without a Xayah ultimate, just can just come straight back bottom lane. They'll also have the Renata ultimate, so that is such a big game changer for these two.
Very close game right now. I mean, you have to, like, applaud the Spartans for just a little bit. They've been able to keep this pretty even despite Screwjank Clunker not really getting active on the map like he did in game number 2. And this mid lane matchup that we thought was going to go pretty far south. It actually went pretty even in CS at this point with Flex in the game. And as the levels continue to come up, as Went hits level 11 and then eventually 16, this is where the KL power is really going to start to shine. And, you know, this game definitely not over just yet, as Waterloo haven't found the big advantage, the big gold lead that we were expecting them to.
Big thing for me is I'm going to be looking at, 3 items here, because we're going to have obviously our AD carries be hitting those spikes, our mid laners especially. When you have 3 items on a Kale, then you have to be a little bit worried. At that point, they're probably close to like level 13, level 14, and that's when you're starting to tick down. We're getting to those Kassadin level timers. You're like, is this a game that we're going to lose, potentially? I mean, Kale has to have frontline built out for her, and hopefully that's what's going to be the case for Earl Grey and Mountains. They need to be able to hold down the backline of Waterloo and make sure that the Kale and the Xayah are able to rip apart both junglers now here. Big thing, Plex is the first one to roam, but Went does have teleport.
It'll be a 4v3 if they start the engage early. Can Jess find something? Ona has the Rift Herald, so we'll be able to put it down. And it doesn't look like Went's going to go forward just yet. There's an Nature's Grasp in the engage, and they already forced the Featherstorm out of T. The Blade Caller only buys 1. Earl Grey T's in a bad spot. Will go down first. Meanwhile, the top side is already a solo kill. Here comes Screwjank Clunker.
Wait a minute.
That's the combo that we were talking about with the ultimates, and all of a sudden, it is San Jose State trying to fight this one back out. But Callum Coy already has the ultimate proc. He's jumping forward and picking himself up a triple kill for Waterloo.
Oh, it's gone from good to absolutely awful here for the Spartans. It is a 4-4-0, a 5-0. I mean, Nautilus ended up going down there, and even top lane, Inexhausted found the solo kill, so they lose out on every single part of the map. They were late to the roam there. Went should have just stayed mid lane, but ends up trying to reconnect on this play with Screwjank, and the game's just kind of way out of hand at this point. 4,000 gold swing for them. They get plates as well. Is such a big win, and Spartans, what do they do at this instance? Like, there's nothing for them. There's no items for them to complete. They're losing plates. We get to look at what happened here in the top lane. I mean, Mountains was just trying to crash this wave, and unfortunately, they just got Fjord.
Oh, what a nice QW there. Make sure that Ornn ultimate does get blocked out, and then, you know, against an Ornn, it's so easy to hit all 4 of those vital procs upon the Grand Challenge. It's just easy 1v1 for Exhausted up there, alongside the fact that Callum Coy and Flex are both off to the races and running. We saw a small instance of how the Spartans want to play this game, but at this point, Screwjank Clunker and Went are just a little bit too far behind.
I'm so sorry, dude. I cannot focus with this. I just see it. It's like a stream. It's like a fountain stream. You know, it's just like 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1. It's beautiful. It's one raining, of the best.
It's spewing numbers.
Yes, it's just like it looks like when you know, like those calculators that have like the built-in receipts on them that you like when you put numbers in, they like it's like putting them in. I just see that. I just see like a constant spew of beautiful numbers and algorithms. The 1 1 1 1 1 is just stuck in my brain.
You said numbers and now calculators, sorry, and I was thinking of how you ever play that game where or not a game, you had a calculator, you just press 1 + 1 and just spam the equals button as much as you can to see how
real okay,
that's what I was thinking of.
Yes.
You said calculator.
Yes, that is true. I've also done that. It's been a while since I've got to play with the calculator, just because I am almost never in math classes, and if I am, I'm using a computer calculator instead of a handheld one. It's actually not true. I remember using, I had to get like a TI-84. That was not fun.
Yeah, that a little too many buttons on that one. I just want to press.
It's huge too, dude. I did not. I knew that they were like, you know, handheld and they got a lot of computing power, but like, Those things are not fun to, like, I wanted to, I really just bought it. Obviously I needed it for class for statistics, but like, I wanted to use it so I could play Doom, and I never figured that out because it was way too lazy.
Yeah. The 2009 YouTube compilations of the games you can play on the calculators, those have been crazy.
There's a guy who does like musical themes, and he does them by playing them on a calculator. So he'll do like initial D and playing it on like 4 different calculators. It's amazing. It's like a different kind of keyboard. Instead of a piano, instead of a grand piano, we've got like the little Casio, like the ones that are powered by like light. It's great.
I've seen someone like do the same thing on like a washing machine. Have you seen that one?
No, but that sounds awesome.
That one's cool because you do the little like the wheel dial, then you press the buttons here to like start the machine.
I do love playing with the wheel dial on like the fancy dryers. I'm glad that nothing has happened in this game for the last like 3 minutes. Like there was a dragon taken, right? Like we're seeing them kind of scale. Oh wait.
Okay. Wen has a level 11, does have the ultimate, but I don't even know if he wants to use it. There's really no chance from getting a kill unless he flashes forward. Chunks flex down to about 500 HP, but will go down.
All right, cool. So now we don't have flash and we don't have ultimate. So I'm really glad that Wen ended up going for that. It really shows off a lot of prowess there. Using the Maokai ult, they just want to try to go for this dive. Those poor Raptors.
He already has to burn the cleanse. Dredge line out for Ogre T. He'll be able to survive. So just gathering a little bit more pressure here as now Screwjunk Clunker wants to go back in, but you can see how easy it is for the Maokai to deny any attempt at an engage from the Rengar.
I think if we asked Donut about this play, I think everybody would wish that just didn't happen. Like, we just like, we're trying to go for it. Oh my god, Malin getting very close to falling under his own turret. The Fiora ultimate is going to fall.
Here we go. Screwjunk Clunker.
Here we go. Come on, Screwjunk. You got this?
Hopefully he has the riposte. Okay,
nice.
Dodge away from the initial jump, and now with the teleport coming in from Plex, it is the top side of Waterloo going on the aggressive end. Here comes Callum.
Whoa!
A nice charm from Plex. We'll find Mountains, and they'll get a second on top of it. A big win up the top side as Waterloo are running away with this game number 3.
I guess one of the things that I didn't really think about, but obviously makes sense when you have these champions, Ahri obviously goes through the map very, very fast. She has a ton of movement speed thanks to her W that she can just use, and it's basically costs like no mana compared to what her mana regen is. But also, Zeri, Fiora, all these champions can just glide over walls and terrain. T just gets caught out immediately, and there's even a spear rush available. Like, every time you don't see these champions, you have to be worried that they're going to be able to jump over the wall, especially when they were just here. So now they get 2 turrets. Fiora TP's bottom lane, gets another bit of damage down, and is able to gather themselves some resources. There is just no reason that Waterloo should lose this game. They're up 7,000 gold at this point, and they have amazing item spikes. Like, they're going to... Callum's almost at 3 items, and we're at 20, almost at 20 minutes.
I don't know if you saw, I mean, we went into that replay. After that fight around the bottom lane, Callum went back, finished his Storm Razor, and then immediately bought a BF sword and a pickaxe like on his next back. So like it was just disgusting the amount of money that he had, and obviously you're seeing it right here. A full item up on his opposing AD carry in T. Try to get saved here in the mid lane though, and Wentest already procced the ultimate. Callum Coy doesn't find anything off of the Ultra Shock Blaze, but the Berserk lane's onto 2. Just free hitting at this point, but not doing a ton of damage onto the Ornn right now. It will be the tier 2 turret in the mid lane that will be the target, unless you want to go for a little bit more.
I just have so many question marks about why this Kayle champion is in mid lane. You got through the laning phase, and now with this game. All right, well, the Rift behind him, Screwjunk here. Let's see if they can make this happen.
They land the ultimate on the Callum Coy. He was knocked up. They're going to go right for the Zeri. Pops the bailout. Not going to be able to get the reset, though, but the rest of Waterloo will be there to clean up. Inexhaustive on the other side, combined with Plex.
Whoa!
Down to the last shot. Actually only makes it a 3-for-3 trade, so maybe Waterloo cooking a little bit too much, and they're going to back off and maybe play a little bit more safe as they look to close this game out.
The food is a little burnt, but we got there. We made the dish. The dish has been completed. There's some scorch marks. As you can see, a 3-for-3 trade. Honestly, probably should have just been a 3-for-2 as they were not able to get that bailout resolve onto Callum, but I don't think they're really caring all that much. Plex just went demon time in that fight, and went, unfortunately, is just playing Kayle. Just playing Kayle before level 16. So level 12 now, so we're getting close. Second item is going to be resolving pretty soon. And it's still a bit of a case of, all right, you're up 8,000 gold, Waterloo. Let's see you close this one out, because Spartans, they do have a bit of scaling. They still have that Ornn, they still have that Kale, but it's just so difficult to play at this point, man. Like,
Mountain couldn't even use the Ornn Horn because he knew that Inexhaustible was just going to rip off.
Matter.
It might be a 1v2 kill here as Went does teleport in.
No.
And that is a lot of damage already onto the Kale. Earl Grey team will fall, and 4 members will take down Went on the Kale. Callum Coy going to be able to survive a 1v2 as well, just because of a very dominant lead right now for Waterloo. The Baron is up. I don't even know if they want to go for it. They want to break open the base.
Yeah, I think they are actually just deciding the Baron is just way better. It's way more fun. It ends the game a little bit quicker. The Spartans, I think they're just out of this game. I think they're mentally getting ready for game 4 at this point, because this is just way too far gone. It's 10,000 gold in 21 minutes. The Dragon can be theirs, and they'll also get a shutdown gold depending on how close this mid turret is to falling. It's just small, very minute victories for them at this point. They're just getting stomped in every single lane.
Maybe one trade back at the Dragon, but yeah, this game seems like it has been over for quite a while now, Alk. And even though the mid jungle, you know, they're picking the scaling champions, they haven't been able to get ahead or even get any sort of advantage like we did see in game number 2. And with that, Inexhaustible coming back here, Screwjank Clunker in a bit of trouble as the Grand Challenge has been popped. The ultimate will be used in response, and Screwjank will be able to flash away, but already a big chunk. No ultimate now on the Rengar either.
That was a really great flash. Oh my god, Inexhaustible! Inexhaustible, he wants it!
Just the extended blast cone to take him down. Inexhaustible is unstoppable. I mean, this is why you banned that Fiora over the first 2 games. It is going crazy here in this one.
Inexhaustible has just shown that they are not allowed to play this champion. Like, it is Fiora. They still haven't pulled out their Camille in the series. We've already seen their Aatrox. Like, this is just in their wheelhouse. It's all about that comfort that we've been talking about throughout the series. Now they're just sieging on 2 different lanes. Callum is nowhere nearby, but Plex is just hammering away at this mid-tier 1, or this mid-inhibitor. They're going to be able to open up 2 different inhibitors if they really want, and they still have all of these ultimates available to them.
They go once again. The Berserk also huge, but the Divine Blessing does save Went's life for now. A big Blade Caller, and already Inexhaustible is down, but they will trade the Kale in response. Lightning Crash comes through. Another big Blade Caller out of T, but it's not enough to stop the might and the wallets of the Waterloo Cold. It's a quadra kill coming in for Callum Boy, who will die in the trade under the turret, but it does not matter as Waterloo are pushing for the end.
They're just going to be able to end this game. Plex was even tanking the turret. Jess is now taking the turret. I think it's super funny, but that timers are just way too long. And now, Grapes, we're headed to potentially one of our last games. If it's not the next one, it's definitely going to be the one after that. Waterloo are going to have side select in this next game. We talked about being able to carry that momentum, but it's just been back and forth. And this draft just went completely hayward after this Kale pick. This Kale absolutely kind of just like took over the game in a very negative manner.
Yeah, and like everything revolved around the Kale, but the Kale, yeah, wasn't that great, unfortunately. Had another strong strategy. You know, you think to yourself, okay, the you know, you're playing a late game champion like the Veigar, it gets banned out. I'll just play another late game champion. I look up late game champions that can do well in the late game. Okay, Veigar, or Kale, sorry, let's lock that in. Unfortunately, did not do the exact same thing.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. Like, I don't know. That draft was, I'm gonna, that is like similar vein of like Fnatic picking Alistar into Caitlyn Lux. Like, that was just straight up, the game's already lost. I think it's a really tough draft to play out, and we saw some glimmers of hope, but Screwjank on the Rengar didn't get a lot done. The Maokai was a little bit too OP in that instance, and the bottom lane, I mean, we saw them find early kills. We saw T and Earl Grey just getting an advantage for themselves without their jungle, but it didn't really matter. I mean, Callum was able to play this game, and a lot of it came from the fact that Plex was able to freely move out of mid, and they made so many dives, concerted efforts onto trying to get this bottom lane behind.
Yeah, that's the big thing, right? Like T and Earl Grey, as you said, got an early lane advantage, as you saw in the replay right there. But when you have first movement in the mid lane, it just becomes way easier to support your AD carry. You said Callum get a triple kill right there, got a quadra kill to end things, and yeah, the game just became a lot harder after that.
I mean, they were doing themselves no favors with the draft. They have a losing mid matchup, losing jungle matchup, losing top matchup, and bottom lane was the only point that we kind of saw some glimmers, but even after that, there was not a lot of attention played there. Screwjank, I think, unfortunately, not really playing for the team in this instance. In the last game, it made sense because they were so far ahead. They were the only ones alongside their mid laner to really find themselves an advantage, but afterwards, in a game like this, you really need to be able to play for your bottom lane's advantage when they are so far ahead, because you play for them and they'll help you. Them winning is you winning. And unfortunately, Screwjank just played a little too greedy this time around. And while they look in this clip, they're up 40 CS on Maokai, and it doesn't matter because their team is down 10,000 gold.
Yeah, and you know, I am excited to continue to watch this series. I think specifically the bot lane matchup has been really fun. I think T and Callum Coy have both put up very, very solid performances overall. But yeah, I mean, it was just not very fair when the mid jungle falls so far behind. You know, for the Spartans, they tried to be greedy in the draft and go a little bit more on the scaling side, and it did not pay off.
I just don't know why this champion was picked. I'm gonna be 1,000. Like this just kind of like threw me for a loop. It makes me a little sad to see because I was kind of excited to see Spartans with reinvigorated coming back into the series. Waterloo, I don't think missed a beat here, and I think played more to the style that we've already seen, and that has already garnered them 2 wins here in this series. They have played nothing that is super out of the ordinary. I would say that their game 2 draft was a little bit more exciting, and now we've got more and more of the same. We've got Inexhaustive on a carry, we've got Jess on something like a Maokai or a Sejuani, and Plex just playing more of that Oriana class of champions. Like, I don't know what to do. Callum, Coy, and Zenden have shown time and time again that come team fights, they are the better bot lane duo compared to T and Earl Grey, and I need to see what Spartans can do to really accentuate the differences in their mid jungle.
I mean, it seems like their goal is always to scale, always to play for, you know, the later game, and I think having a little bit more agency will be important in order for them to stay alive. Because it seems like Waterloo have figured out that strategy a little bit. If you have a mid lane jungle that can go out and roam, can push and you know, affect the side lanes, it becomes pretty easy to win, especially if you have no response on the other side.
I just don't want to see Kale again. I'll be honest. If that you could have put any champion in the mid lane there that wasn't Kale, I would probably have been happy. I personally, I feel really bad for the side of San Jose because that should have been a game that is playable. But we get to take a look at the final fight of the game as there's Went. There he goes. He was, and now he went.
Oh no, got hit by the parry as well on the call. The Forge got Inexhaustive, a very crucial piece of this game as well. I mean, take a look at the draft on both ends. You know, first of all, San Jose State, they let the Fiora come all the way down to R5, which might have been a bit of a mistake as we saw in that one. And also, Went's champion pool is something that we have to take a look at right now. They banned away the Acel, Rumble, and Veigar, and you know, they went for the Kale after that. The Singe and the Kale haven't worked so well, and it seems like a little bit more of an unorthodox pool for the mid laner of the Spartans, and maybe that's something that can be punished.
Yeah, I'm taking a look at what their picks were throughout the groups. They had a Victor game versus Scad. They had Veigar versus McMaster, like we were already seeing throughout the draft. And then in playoffs, Aurelion Sol, Victor, and a Kali game going up against Syndra. I'm surprised that this is something that we're not seeing. I'm looking at their Converse game, another Victor game. There are 3 Veigar games throughout that series. I think that, I don't know if maybe Went is maybe experimenting a little bit or trying to show off in terms of their playstyle, but there are champions that we have seen just in this series that we have seen Plex pick up. We're not seeing that from the side of, you know, the entirety of Spartans, I think. So kind of have to show up or show out. We were talking about this tournament in general. It is a fall warm-up tournament, right? It is a warm-up to get into the 2024 school year, and hey, like you can look at it's reflected in the rewards for this, right? Like it's RP, it's riot points. You get a bunch of different rewards, which are really cool. And the stakes for this tournament, you're not going up against the top 8 of Collegiate, right? You're not going up against Slew versus Winthrop versus an Old Miss. None of those teams. You're playing up against likes of Converse, of UCR, of SCAD, McMaster, Texas A&M, Berkeley. these are teams that have historically been okay at CLOL, but not necessarily going to make it into a top 8 or a top 4 unless, you know, we have miracle runs like we saw from Converse. And that Converse team is way different than it was back then. So, you know, I do want to see how they can adapt in a series, because it would provide so much better experience for a lot of these players of how to get into the nitty-gritty of a game.
Yeah, and you know, for both of these teams, you know, we mentioned this at the top of our broadcast, but they both were in the knockout stage of the CLOL Championships. Although none of them made it into the round of 8, Waterloo to round of 16, San Jose State to round of 32. These are teams that have been competitive, and this is the nature of the fall warm-up tournament. Teams that are kind of nearing that top-level contender position, but haven't necessarily, you know, proven themselves just yet because of we haven't seen too many of their games just in terms of the fall. You know, I don't think either of these teams have played at too many of these LANs or other events that have been happening like NECC. So if Waterloo can continue to put up a good performance, I think that's going to really remind everybody that, hey, this is the champions of the East Conference. They won the CLO Fall Warm-Up. This is a team that people are going to have to start considering as a real threat.
For sure. I'm definitely looking a little bit more at you know, the intangibles that we don't really get to see in game. I really wish that we had more time with a lot of these players to be able to be like, hey, how are you doing? It's something that you can kind of get during like an off time when the players are walking off stage, and maybe we have like a little bit of downtime. You can go up to the players, be like, hey, what's going on? Like, how are you feeling? It's something that you just miss from being in person or having that direct line of access. And I really hope for the side of Waterloo that they're able to keep their heads on straight. They've been playing a very similar game for 4 games in a row now, and I think when you have that level of consistency, it only adds to some of that ability to come back in a series saying, look, we've played this so many times. We know what's going to happen. We've seen all the different universes of this game. We can kind of come back from anything.
Yeah, and we'll see if they have that back in their back pocket. You know, they were down in the series earlier, and they came all the way back. So I wonder if any new strategies actually will end up coming out. We have received word that side select has been finalized. It'll be Waterloo selecting blue. And that's, you know, what every team has picked so far. And we have seen some differences in terms of like, oh, blue side doesn't always win these games. But actually, I think red side has won all of the games. Am I wrong?
Let me take a look. Red side won game 2. Red side won game 4.
Game 4 hasn't happened yet. But...
Or sorry, game 3. Game 1 was blue side for... Oh man, I had this draft up. So Waterloo won the first game, and I think they may have been on...
Yeah, I think they were red side.
They were red side. All right, yeah, right. See, I told you. The blue side is being conflated by cringe high elo teams.
Yeah, every team that has picked sides that has selected the sides have lost their game. That's something, you know, maybe you want to think about a little bit. Maybe
so we're going to game 5.
Yeah, looks like maybe we're going to game 5. Is Waterloo selected blue side? If the situation holds, maybe we see this. It is interesting though, because it does seem like blue side is so strong, and we've seen it get a bunch of these big advantages. But in that last game, we didn't necessarily see that, as we are into the draft for game number 4.
Okay, here we go. We're getting into game 4. Waterloo University at match point. This could potentially be our last game of the series. Could be the last game of the Shurima division in our playoffs here for the CLOL fall warm-up tournament. And bans saying similar to what we got, except now Spartans have banned the Jinx and the Fiora. So if we go back to some of our earlier drafts here, this does mean that the Cassiopeia has now opened up for Plex. I don't expect it for them to try to first pick it, but it is something that they need to think about. It is Plex is one of his best champions to play.
Yeah, you don't want to pick it too early, because there are a ton of counters that specifically someone like Went could go for. You know that this guy's already, we've seen in this series that he's been willing to pull out some of these wacky counters, and so we have to keep that on our minds as the first pick. Zaya comes through for Cal and Koi. Hasn't gotten an opportunity on this champion just yet. It has been played mostly by T in this series, and so now we'll see what the response is for him on the other side.
And I wonder now, like, T probably going to default back to Aphelios. I think it's interesting that Callum has not really reached for this champion. Also, we talked about this, and I think it's a champion that I kind of just ignored as we got further into this draft just because they forgot about it. Kai'Sa was one of the most played champions coming into this tournament. Every single one of the AD carries, both of these guys here have been playing it, and I'm surprised that it hasn't been picked up before. Like, yes, Kai'Sa, or the Jinx is very strong, but Kai'Sa still a monster with how many different builds she has, how many different items she can have, and try to being able to outrange a lot of the champions that we tend to see from both teams.
Went finally going back to his Victor. This is, as you said, something that he has played throughout the fall warm-up tournament, but not here in this series just yet. Has been a little bit more unorthodox to start off the first 3 games of this best of 5. But now with the backs against the wall, it looks like the Spartans are going to go a little bit more comfort. Zyra Khan going to be finished out here by Waterloo. We've seen Zenden have some really nice engages on champions like the Rel, the Rakan, another tool that can really emphasize the same points of strength.
And what a great time to be a Waterloo fan, man, because now they got Zyra Rakan. This should have been something that Spartans should have been looking to try to steal. If you have such a high priority on Victor, then go ahead and save the Kai'Sa pick until R3, because now you've given over Zyra Rakan. Now they also have access to something like an Orianna or a Maokai on the side of Waterloo. And I need to see from Spartans, probably a support pick here. I want to see them just matching. You need to be able to find counter picks. You know that Mountains is going to be playing a tank top lane, so let's just try to secure the best possible matchup. Now that Fiora's gone, we can get rid of Aatrox, we can get rid of Camille. We know that there's no mid lanes we need to worry about. Maokai, I think, is the next big one for me to think about.
Yeah, with red side being in the hands of San Jose State, they'll have the option to choose whether they want to get counter for their jungler or their top side. And, you know, Scrooge and Clunker has been able to get some pretty big leads here in this game, but, you know, now with the opportunity to pick something a little bit different, you know, the Rengar now being taken away, maybe you just early pick Mountains anyway, because you know that it's going to be a tank, and then get the best possible matchup here for your jungler to match alongside the Victor.
All right, we see the Graves and the Maokai ban, so Onat probably going to have to pick up a different champion here in the jungle. They've also gotten rid of the Volibear here for Mountains. I mean, Orin is still available. They are just leading him. They're like, okay, you will pick this. Oh, we're getting the R5 for the boy Mountains. Ivern going to be the pick. I'm a little worried. I don't see a lot of champions that Ivern really kind of deals or kind of handles well and kind of operates with. Ivern typically is just an enchanter, and so you kind of want to help the champions that are a little bit more melee focused. Does this mean that we're going to get another champion like Renekton potentially here for Mountains?
Oh, hovering a lot of different junglers right now, but Kalmkoi decides to lock Jess in the Lee Sin. This was popular in the mid lane at some point. I'm sure Ona has played this a little bit in that position, but now going into the jungle, nice chance to show off some of their mechanics, and we'll see what an Exhaustive wants to blind to close out their draft.
Okay. Last pick. I love that Onat's just picking up Lee Sin. Lee Sin's a little bit more difficult to play here, but definitely something they can go for. So now we have K'Sante. A lot of different options you can try to pick into K'Sante, but which one's the best? I mean, Rumble's already gone. I don't think you really want to try to trade this Renekton matchup. Jax is certainly something that we've been seeing and requires a little bit of a different playset from what we've seen from the side of San Jose. It's going to be finally a game where Mountains really gets to carry. Okay, hands over the keys to him.
Yeah, I mean, this is the standard matchup. You know, because you pick the Jax into the K'Sante. We just maybe weren't expecting it as much because we haven't seen Mountains really get his hands on a big carry. The strongest, you know, the most damage that we've seen him on in terms of the champion has been like the Renekton maybe. And that, of course, probably would not have done as great into the K'Sante. So instead, going to the Jax, a little bit more of a standard matchup in the laning phase. And maybe Inexhaustible will have himself tested just a little bit. However, this is definitely a very strong composition once again for Waterloo, as Spartans have somehow kind of put themselves a little bit all over the place in terms of where they want to direct their priority.
Yeah. For Waterloo, I mean, this is just like a team composition where now you have Zyra Rakan, so you're going to have push in the bottom lane. You're going to also be able to have really, really good engages. I'm a little bit worried here for someone like a Victor. Doesn't have a lot of crowd control. Orianna versus Victor. Victor can kind of trade with Orianna, but once these two start to get lost chapters, I think you're very worried for Lisa and Orianna just blowing up your mid jungle. Ivern is going to have a pretty interesting situation in this game, and by interesting, I mean like you're focusing top lane. We just come top lane level 3, level 4, we wait till level 6, we come back with Daisy, and I want to see if Scrooge and Clunker really has this champion unlocked, because we have seen him play it a few times, but my big thing is, how well can you utilize Daisy? Because this unit by itself, Daisy, can be an entire 6th champion if utilized properly.
Yeah, you stick the shields onto her, she just goes out and just wails on everybody, landing a ton of knockups and being very annoying and difficult to kill. In a, another standard front-to-back team fight from Waterloo, which is what we have seen from them time and time again in terms of what they want to pick in terms of in their composition. It can provide a little bit of disruption, and having that Enchanter to buff up things like the Jax and the Kaista here for T in the bottom lane is going to be very helpful to match alongside the rest of the team and the engage that they provide.
So it's also really cool because maybe we go into game 5 in a headcanon where somehow Waterloo end up losing this game. I obviously, by saying that, really favor Waterloo's drafts. They have really great crowd control. They have an amazing ability to control space with an Orianna and the Xayah Rakan pairing. Say we go to game 5. Waterloo, they continue to have Cassiopeia open. I think it's something that I would love to see, especially if Flex is going to be, showing up on the champion. We do have another red side game here for Spartans, so maybe they're able to pull that out. So our red side has been undefeated today. And the only ways I see Spartans winning, top lane has to go really, really far in their favor. And even then, the laning phase is still fine for Cassante. It's just a matter of going into late game. If Jax has a sizable enough advantage, he just jumps on top of Orianna and she dies, or forces out the Xayah ultimate, which means Xayah's not dealing damage. And if Victor at any point doesn't have flash, then we're in a tricky situation as the Spartans.
It's a lot of immobile champions once again, as we saw a little bit in game number 2, I believe it was actually. But on the other side, you have the Victor here for Went, which is a little bit more standard, but unlike some of the other picks that he's had, can be very vulnerable as soon as one of the summoner spells are gone. The jungle matchup, though, is going to take priority for me here, all because the early pathing is going to be so important for both Scrooge and Clunker and for Jess. On the Lee Sin, finding an early gank will be imperative. And on the other side, how much counter jungling do you think is really going to happen here?
Didn't they nerf counter jungling?
Well, it's Ivern still. You can still smite away.
Yeah, I guess, but like counter jungling on Ivern is actually just so pissed. Like it's really useless, man. Like you cannot counter jungle on this champ unless the enemy jungler is like straight up camping top lane, and you're sitting on that Raptor, and you're just like, you're hitting the idle dance as Ivern. And Lee Sin should not give you a chance to, like, he should say, you're counter jungling, cool. I'm gonna destroy your entire team. I'm gonna kick flash everybody. I'm getting rid of this Jax. This Victor doesn't get to play the game. I agree that this jungle matchup is going to be really, really pivotal, and I want to see what Onat is able to do on this Lee Sin.
I'm very excited. He's always somebody who's had a lot of hands, been able to be very mechanically gifted, even on like some of the melee champions. I don't entirely remember if he's ever played the Lee Sin in like an official competitive game. You can take a look at that as we are getting ready to head into between these two C-Lowell warm-up finalists. Waterloo are one game away from claiming that RP prize and making sure that everyone knows that they are the kings to fall.
There are actually very few AD champions in general in Onat's career, at least showing up on Leaguepedia. The few AD champions he has is Akshan, Jace, and Tristana, and Graves. There's 2 Graves games he played. I don't know. I really don't want to count Corki for obvious reasons. So, no Lee Sin, obviously. You were right. Lee Sin mid was probably, well, it was Lee Sin top, remember? Like, Lee Sin top into, like, Renekton. That was the
flex it around a little bit. But that was also 2021. I don't think Onat started his career until like 2022 as well.
Yep,
so
correct.
Maybe I am misremembering a little bit, but still high mechanics, able to do a lot. That is what you see out of some of these role swap mid laners, their ability to be a little bit stronger in terms of being able to outhand somebody. So we'll see if that happens here. Jungler starting on the opposite side of the map. We'll see what path Scrooge and Clunker wants to start. You see a ton of pings over there. Waterloo trying to scout the Ivern out.
Ooh, and they're also starting on opposite sides of the jungle here. I wonder if Jess will just try to walk in. Onat on this Lee Sin has a couple of options. Knowing that enemy jungle is starting on the bottom side, you could just try to immediately meet Ivern at his top side. It's something that is very, very easy to do because he requires to spend HP to try to marinate the camps a little bit. But I like that we're seeing this from Screwjank, already kind of showing a lot of prowess on this jungle clear. Going for the red, actually ignores the Krugs. Alright, never mind. All of my nice things that I just said, rescind. Instantly rescind. The Ivern clear has been in the game for, at least competitively, in terms of pro play, at least 6 months. We have got to get this one down.
Yeah, maybe. So, okay, my theory, the Raptor camp will get unlocked. You'll be able to pick that one up, and then you can just smite the Krugs. Okay, no,
well, no, we want to smite. We want to smite the Scuttle because it takes way too long to marinate the cook. Actually, might be using this time to actually just go for a bot lane gank, but spending a lot of time with how he wants to path into this. They have a Relch, just walk forward.
Yeah, there's a topside fight as well. Okay, just gonna be a 1-for-1. Mountain was dead. Gonna go for that trade instead of just giving up a kill for free. Meanwhile, Kalimkoi is in a lot of trouble. Has to flash away. Already used the heal as well. And it will be Screwjank Clunker able to maybe get a kill. T finishing it off with final auto attack, and Zenden has to do the grand entrance to escape.
Oh my god, such a close fight on both ends here. That Jax, Mountain's doing it without any jungle assistance. Jess is going to be there. Onat will pick up some local XP for being in the area, but won't get any of the gold in that instance. And this was similar to what we saw in game number 1 of this series. If given the tools, Mountains will actually try to play for a solo kill, will try to outplay his opponent, but typically is not given the tools to do so. Is usually on the stuff like the Ornn, like the Scion, and doesn't typically get the opportunity to be able to get that done. As I think Earl Grey having 2 really cool moments there during the crashdown, interrupting Zenden's grand entrance. That would have potentially just ended up in a kill all by itself, but even right there, they're not able to get much from the Lee Sin Q. So, good job.
Nice job for Earl Grey too, who had some shakier moments on engaged champions earlier on in this series. We have a replay of this top lane 1v1 right now. Cassandra versus Jax, definitely a volatile matchup, and as soon as Mountains gets hit by the Intopo strikes, he knows he's gotta go in.
Yeah, this is why also Jax level 1 is straight up disgusting, because this champion can just walk into a minion wave and just tank all of it with Counter-Strike, and there's a ramp up in terms of damage. He just walks up and he's able to do so much, and also just pre-level 6, Cassandra doesn't have as many tools as maybe a Jax would, comparing their ultimates to each other. But Ivern getting the topside scuttle and still ignoring the Krug camps. We do not want golden experience from these camps. It is totally fine. I'm just sad. It just hurts my heart to see Ivern, a champion that, while has definitely a much cheaper build path than a lot of other jungle champions, there's no reason to skip this camp. This camp is good. We should hit the Krug camp, guys. It's Screwjank Clunker. I'm calling to you, brother.
I'm torn because in terms of like maximization, obviously you want to have as much gold as possible. You don't get as much gold as all the other junglers do from taking the Krugs, because you don't get the little baby ones that come out of it. So maybe he's just kind of cut his losses, spend his other time doing other things. But no, I agree.
Is that true for Ivern? I feel like that's not true. I feel like you just get the entire camp.
I don't think you get the little ones. Maybe somebody can correct me on that, but
dude, this champ would absolutely suck if you couldn't get Krugs. Oh, okay, here we go. Freeing a Krug camp only gives you golden experience of 1 ancient Krug, 2 Krugs, and okay, so you miss out on 1 of the medium-sized Krugs and 3 of the miniature Krugs.
Yeah. Okay.
So you lose about 50 gold and somewhere around like 60 experience.
So not the best camp to take, but better than taking no camp, I think is the big thing.
Agreed.
As, Inexhaustive actually gonna go slam onto Mountains, but doesn't know that Screwjank Clunker is here. The Krug camp was taken, and that'll mean that he's there in time to make sure that that trade in the top side is a 1-for-1.
Krug camp matters. Let's go. See what happens. Also, that was the most extended range Cassandra ultimate I think I've seen in a long time. Kalimkoi and crew, we're fighting.
Wait, Colin, not just yet the Void Seeker doing a ton onto Kalim. And T going aggressive here. It's actually the Spartan bot lane doing a lot to keep themselves ahead in this lane.
They have to be able to show up a little bit in this series, because so far Kalimkoi and Zenden have had their number, have kind of showed them up in a lot of team fights. So the fact that the laning phase is going well is great and all, but I need to see a little bit more, and hopefully with the Kai'Sa they can do just that. The Kai'Sa is obviously built to monster a team fight. We'll see what the Spartans are able to do as we get to that point. We're 7 minutes in. We got a lot of time before that's going to happen potentially. And something that I will note here, Rift Herald spawning in a minute, Dragon already up, And look at the difference in itemizations from our two mid laners here. Peck's going for a much more defensive build, but it does mean that Victor will have a lot of that damage by already having that Lost Chapter.
With Mountains theoretically having the push, should mean that topside Rift's Herald fight, 8 minutes or so, favoring the Spartans just a little bit. You know, we see Mountains crashing this wave in, Screwjack Clunker on his way towards the top side of the map. Looks like that's going to be an objective that San Jose State are going to want to play for. We'll see how much Waterloo will give up to respond. Callum Coin and Zenden haven't really left the bottom lane so far, and I don't know if they're going to want to do it this time around.
A lot of options, though. I mean, they can start to marinate the enemy bot lane here if you are Waterloo, right? Like, just start getting a little bit of poke, potentially set up for a wave. Jess is on this side of the map. You do have priority coming in from mid lane. If they wanted to, they drop mid wave and they could go for this, but prioritizing the Herald here, they have top lane already starting to pinch in. You have Rakan starting to move out as well. They don't have any vision as to where Zenden is going to be until he shows on this mid wave. Stopping an early Rift Herald coming out from the Spartans is such a massive win for them. This Jax needs to be tapered as long as possible for the side of Waterloo.
Take a look here now around the gold lead situation. And Exhaustive, once again, despite being in a counter matchup, in quotes, has been able to get the better hand over Mountains. You know, those kills being in the right spots have helped him significantly. And we'll see if that matters as the Rift Herald has been started, or is potentially going to be started up here. But instead, Inexhaustive going aggressive on the Mountains. They spot Screwjack and Clunker out now, so Waterloo definitely know what's up.
Oh, and look at this. Onat's already in position. They're getting ready for this next wave. If not on this one, it's definitely going to be the next one. Look at how the supports are positioning. They do know where Earl Grey is, and Callum Coy is here. Callum is ready to fight, but... right in the middle of the crush down!
By the shockwave of Flex! Earl Grey T still going to be able to survive while keeping his summoner spells. Daisy has been summoned, and now Screwjack and Clunker are going to look to make it a bit of a trade. Flex forced out of the fight.
Uh-oh.
Flash away, he gets kicked right back in by Jess, and the Ivern will fall as Callum Coy gets the goal.
And this is a big win for them. I mean, Screwjack just walked right into the opponents and then flashes towards Jess. Like, you know this Lee Sin has ultimate and is going to be available to try to kick you into the enemy team. So kind of a wasted flash, maybe not necessarily looking in that direction. And that just comes down to camera control. Spartans are in a pretty tough spot. Yes, they're only down 600 gold, but you look across the lanes right now. Inexhaustive doing well for himself in the top lane. Your mid lane holding their own, and I don't think you're very worried about a Xayah Rakan. And so far, especially if you've watched Callum play the last couple of games, he's been a fantastic addition to this roster as their AD carry, and finally coming back on the AD, he's just showing up pretty big in this series.
He already has 1 kill, could be more. This is 3rd unique champion, I believe he's played in the best of 5. And has done really well on all of them. You know, you might remember back to that Jinx and how great that one was, but right now on the Xayah, going pretty well for him too. Already has a little bit of a CS lead. You can see maybe after he goes back to base upon collecting that Rift Herald, it's going to be pretty far ahead in terms of itemization as well.
I'm interested now what we get from both of these teams, but more kind of looking at kind of this Ivern, because I mean, you're looking at it right now, and he still has a lot of camps he needs to be able to clear, but his itemization is also starting to fall behind. Like, one of the cool things about playing an Enchanter is that your itemization is just so much cheaper, and it does mean that you kind of enhance your team. This is a team fight that, so the Spartans can try to win, but it's on such thin margins.
There you go.
Oh my god, no!
Big knock up as well. They do get Jess out of the fight, and Went will pick up the kills. Then it has to escape. Look at the Blade Caller, though. Callum Coy took a damage in response. No Chaos Storm, but a lot of damage already in the hands of Went. But it looks like San Jose State not going to go too far. They're going to back away for now, although they do spot Callum on a ward. And we'll chuck him down to half HP.
Wow, and that's such a big win coming out from the side of, I mean, even Spartans. The fact that they didn't get the dragon is pretty bad, but they get a kill for themselves. And they all just walked into the Orianna ultimate. Like, that's why Orianna is so powerful. She just makes certain parts of the map unwalkable. If she has ultimate, you're just not allowed to go into that area, and it stopped T from initially being able to find it. But I think Waterloo, mechanically speaking, misplaying a lot of that fight and not having a lot of that same threat onto the backline carries.
They're still ahead in gold, but yeah, definitely scary right now if you are them. San Jose State don't get the dragon, but they are able to keep themselves in this one by just a little bit. And Exhaustive, once again, going aggressive, and you see Screwgen Clunker just here to try to protect the Jax. You know, this is not Mountain's most comfortable champion.
This is such a death.
Try his best right here. The all-out comes through. Here comes the shields as well. It will keep Mountains alive, but he procs the ultimate. The flash away. Man, Inexhaustive is a scary man up the top side.
As soon as an Exhaustive uses that that first Cassante E under the turret to try to get back in, that should have just been their go time. The Mountain should have immediately pulled the trigger and looked for that play. Just now, ooh, Onat trying to put down some hands on him, but now Mountain's back here with
he's in trouble. Inexhaustive gonna get the solo kill despite Screwgen Clunker being there. Finally, Daisy will be able to help him out, and it is a 1-for-1.
But it's another solo kill, and Mountain's now down 30 and down 3 plates up in the top side. Yes, Screwjank is getting some of these return kills, but I just don't think it matters. I don't think it's a meaningful amount. They use the grand entrance into mid. Went no flash
away. It goes Jess. Also engaged with Zenden as well, but Went will be able to survive here. Waterloo seem like they're trying to run away, trying to find advantages, but Zenden, they stayed. They're not going down without a fight.
It's 2.5 minutes before the dragon, and that means Went no longer has Flash, a more important summoner spell compared to someone like Jess or even this Rakan. So come to that next team fight, I'm going to be looking at Victor. How do you actually walk into a fight? How do you walk into River when there is a Orianna ult waiting for you? Really good use of the Xayah Rakan passive there when you're playing with each other to immediately get back into the base. And now because of this, it's just more and more gold falling to the wayside in favor of Waterloo.
Yeah, even though it's been San Jose State that has had the kill lead and has been able to make these 1-for-1 trades, the gold has gone from about even to a 1,500 gold lead from Waterloo, and it is about how you are able to allocate these resources, specifically Callum Coy. I think got a very solid amount of plates and now very ahead in terms of itemization. Already has that BF sword working, and now on the top side, and Exhaustive's going for a play. T1 just finds the Sonic Wave, but won't be able to finish the kill off. It's going to be a bit of a dive situation. Mountain is going to go down until the counter strike goes in. Actually, no! Jess will survive the Triumph proc. Will save him for now, but it's two members of the Spartans are here to clean this one up. Screwjack Clunker picks it up, went gone for the TP. Inexhaustive might be able to get away. And now in the mid lane, in a root landing on an Earl Grey Tea, as it looks like Went's going to be able to finalize that kill. First tower secured. Somehow Inexhaustive survives. Cassante doing those Cassante things, as we do not stop the action here. As Screwjack Clunker headed towards mid. Zenden and Callum Coy don't have the ultimate just yet. Callum Coy doing his best. There comes a Feather Storm, the Blade Caller. Not gonna get a kill. Under the tower, Earl Grey Tea goes, and the Chaos Storm trying to burn Zenden down. Callum's gonna pop the heal, keep his support alive. A lot of damage, but no kills for either side.
What is going on? I can't believe the only person who died in that play is Mountains and Jess. Like, the fact that they were able to go 1-for-1 and all across the board, there were just no kills. Wow, what an insane fight. But also, I think Spartans kind of feeling that little bit of desperation. They have very little damage until Kai'Sa has 3 items. Until that point, and even then, Kai'Sa has to get into range. It's one of the issues when you have an AD Kai'Sa is you have to walk into range of the opponents, and they're going to start to recognize as Waterloo that this is such a big advantage for them. Nobody can really deal with them. They have so much great mobility as well with the Lee Sin and the Cassante, and then should be able to get out. He's playing Rakan after all. This champion is notoriously difficult to get away from. And now with Dragon, how do you walk in versus Xayah Feathers and an Orianna Ball? It should be theoretically impossible for Spartans.
Waterloo has extended their goal lead about 3,000. Flex doing a really nice job maintaining that Orianna Ball in a position where you cannot allow the Spartans to move. Topside 1v1.
No
Mountain's
way.
out of mana, and Inexhaustive will take him down. As now the Shockwave's already going to unleash. Calicoid doesn't have an ultimate here. With the Chaos Storm is Went. The health bars are on the side of San Jose State, and they want this Hex Tech Dragon. Zenden doesn't have an ult, so will not go for the engage. The Void Seeker just barely goes wide, and the Dragon will be secured by the Spartans.
Who did all this damage? Was it Went on this Victor? I hope we get a full replay of this bottom side play, because it feels to me as if Went kind of went crazy on the Victor. He dropped a Chaos Storm. We also see that Flex no longer has their Orianna Shockwave, so there's a lot of things here that kind of went down in that last fight. I think it's obviously the difference when you look at the two mid laners, right? Look at their itemization. Going for Merc Treads first hasn't finished their Mythic. They'll probably finish it now as we get back to base, but I mean, Went already had gotten the Leandries, had already finished the Sork Pen boots, and that was just a massive game changer for that fight.
Back here to the top side, looks like Mountains ran out of mana, and that's just kind of what happens there. In that bot lane again, I think Went with that full Leandry is just able to burn through everybody with the Chaos Storm, and the cooldowns were being used in pretty decent ways by Flex and by Cal and Koi, but you know, just in terms of getting enough damage down to win the fight, we did not see that there.
So 4 minutes before the dragon is going to be able to spawn. We don't have a lot of action. The big thing for me is how we're going to be playing around some of these structures. You already see an exhaustive pushing out into the bottom side. It should be very difficult for Went to actually push this guy out, and maybe they find this pick onto Zenden.
Yeah, gets knocked up. Went doing a lot of damage as well, but with the Zyricon combo, with Battle Dance, will allow Zenden to survive for now. Here comes the teleport. It will be Mountains trying to finish off the kill. Zenden has to flash away from the death ray, but here comes Screwjank Clunker. Not going to find the kill as he goes golden, but finally makes it a 1-for-1. The Ivern dies in response, and Inexhaustible wants to flash away from the gravity field. Mountains not done just yet. He jumps forward, but gets hit up by the Intopo strikes.
Whoa.
A big flash about counter-strike will try to make it a win for the Spartans, but with the all-out coming out from Inexhaustive, it will be Waterloo evening up the trade. Teleport coming in. Waterloo want to end this fight in a positive manner for themselves. They get the ball on Jess. Will he go in with it? Not just yet with a Sonic Wave. Shockwave not used
Orianna
there.
owns now.
Flex
Just phase
is
rush.
literally just 1v3 and phase taking everyone in this situation. Waterloo winning out on the fight. They continue to get incremental advantages, but nothing has broken the Camel's back just yet.
And look what they've done here. They've chased them through mid, so now they can take some of these bottom side camps. They also have the Rift Herald already on Column Koi, so he just gets another turret. He's getting so much gold. He's also getting a lot of these kills. 600 solo for him. Usually when we have the Rift Herald spawned, it's split between the AD carry and the jungler. Went now, half HP immediately, and Callum still has ultimate available.
See, are they going to continue the push? Shelly does go down, and so with objective bounties now coming up for San Jose State, just even more indicative of the fact that Waterloo are in a very good position in this one. Just going in for a bit of an invade. Teleport coming in though, as it looks like San Jose State wants to fight this one. They knock up Went, and he's still looking to go on the aggressive end. A big shockwave comes out from the side of Flex, as Inexhaustible taking a whole lot, but teleporting right into 5 members of the Spartans means that he will get shut down by the Jax.
Wow. Pretty surprising, especially then getting the teleport from Inexhaustive. That's a pretty massive win if you're on the side of Spartans. Eventually even setting themselves up for a Baron. The only thing I will be worried about is the fact that Went doesn't have teleport. If they would have had the Victor here ready to go alongside a Kaisa and an Ivern with the Daisy there too, that is a Baron that just completely melts. And it's up to Waterloo to end up walking into them. Decide not to, deciding that the farm, the camps that they're going to be able to farm for either Screwjank or even T, and even the gold they're getting from the waves is a little bit more important at this point. So finishing some more items. I am now in a position, Grapes, where I'm a little fearful for the Spartans, because we already talked about how, compositionally speaking, this should be a very difficult game for them to play, and there are still item advantages popping up. The one saving grace for me is not only Screwjank Clunker playing this Ivern, but yet again, Went is having that pop-off performance. The night and day of this player right now. You either get the best or some of the most interesting gameplay you possibly could get on screen.
And on a champion like the Victor that scales very well, even having those 2 kills right now is going to be very important, and just being able to stay in the game a little bit, even if you're not necessarily taken over at the 21-minute mark. We saw the same case with the Veigar and how much he was able to do later on with the Void Staff almost complete for him. You know, anything is possible, and San Jose State can find their way back into this game. The Baron is up for the taking, but I think the target on both teams' eyes are going to be this Ocean Dragon that spawns in 10 seconds. You can see Zenden gathering as much pressure as he can in that mid lane to make sure that Waterloo have priority around the pit.
I mean, one of these teams has a mid-tier one and the other one doesn't, right? Like, Waterloo just gets naturally really good map geography to be able to win this by taking away that mid-tier one. It is so difficult for the Spartans to stay far up and fight for mid priority. So it's a dragon going over to Waterloo, and we talked about how important 3 items was going to be for our 2 AD carries here. Callum's almost there at 3. T is still trying to get a Navori Quick Blades at this point.
And once he does, I mean, it'll be maybe a little bit scary for somebody like Callum Koy when how the champions like naturally interact with each other in a 1v1. But yeah, Callum has been the more dominant AD carry on the day so far, and it looks like that's continuing here in game number 4. Zendin maybe face tanking a little bit too much here. He has to use the Battle Dance to escape. As now the pressure goes over to the Baron. You have Flex in the bottom side pushing out against Mountain. That is definitely a 1v1 that is won by Waterloo. And with that additional pressure, it allows for Waterloo to play very aggressive in the enemy jungle.
This is also really good posturing coming out from Waterloo to threaten the Baron, right? Like they're just getting set up for as soon as they find one pick, as soon as they're able to say, hey, this person is recalling, let's start the Baron. Hey, this person just got chunked and they need to go for a recall, this guy's going for, we should just start a Baron. It's going to be that pick on the Screwjank. Oh my god.
Nice
no flash.
Away, yeah.
That should just be them moving forward. They already have the mid. They can even kill him here.
Finds him out and takes the Ivern down. I thought with the blue smite he'd be able to have enough movement speed to escape, but instead, with the jungler of San Jose State down for the count, it is Waterloo making their way towards the Baron.
I don't know why Screwjank is even taking that path. It's an incredibly greedy one to take and gets punished immediately. Opens up the Baron for them. They have nothing to answer in either of the side lanes. This is the freest Baron, and maybe they find this pick on the Earl Grey T as well. Yeah, hits the crash down. They're just trying to get away from them, but a phase rush Orianna, this should just not be allowed. These guys should be going down. Zendin getting very close, but again, playing Rakan. This was a massive mistake from Screwjank, who has been a pivotal member for the Spartans. And for San Jose, this is a mistake that could potentially cost them the game in a few minutes' time.
Waterloo can taste that victory. They can almost visualize the chests and what skins are going to come out of them of those capsules once they end up taking the finals victory. They have the Baron buff for the next 2.5 minutes, and they're going to try to march down all 3 of the lanes in order to get as much gold as they possibly can to close this one out for good. You see 3 items now done for Callum Koy as the Bloodthirster is now completed. You also see 2 completed items on Jess and Flex. A very strong team composition with a lot of really, really powerful breakpoints.
And look at this already. Callum hitting 3. I mean, T just now hitting 2 items. Should have that Q evolve already if they didn't already, but they're also missing the attack speed bonus. They're just making this play immediately on
right onto the enemy marksman. He has to flash away. Tier 2 in mid does go down. And now a flank is in the works here for San Jose State. It feels like this is their last-ditch effort as the teleport comes in from an exhaustive. They already root up Mountains, and the jump in from Jess takes him down. And that is the first kill of what could be the final play on the side of San Jose State. Go back here onto this client right now. Another kill goes the way here. And into the Nexus they go as the base is now under fire. T on top of him. He will be able to stay alive for now, but it is the inhibitor taken down as a result of that play.
Jesus, that was so close, man. Like, they're getting very, very antsy. I love that Waterloo are trying to play on the edge. However, you know, this is why they are so far ahead at this point. Almost 10,000 gold. Kind of ignored it for the time being, but they are incredibly far ahead at this point. And now they just need to kind of put the finishing touches. That Baron was so important. And I'm sure for San Jose State, they're kicking themselves. They're saying, we shouldn't have been caught right before that Baron. We should not have lost our lead over that spot of the map. And unfortunately, there's just no lanes for them to play through. There's no top laner that's ahead. The biggest one for me is Went, but I mean, he has flashed out. This Victor has to pop off. This needs to be like a Faker level performance for him to be able to really get back into this game.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough. Especially because Victor's not necessarily a champion that has a ton of agency, and when the rest of your team is getting caught out in the side lane like this, might not be able to have that happen. Mountains gonna get singled out here and taken down, as now the bot lane is open for the taken, as Waterloo pushing for the end.
Yep, that'll be a 4v5 now. It is the last bit. The inventories you see in the Spartans esports, that is going to be the inventory you see at the end of the game. They need to be able to make good on the promises. Can they bring us to a game 5? It's pretty difficult, especially at a 10,000 gold lead. Is engage from Zenden.
Oh, Jess and Zenden both aren't able to find the engage just yet. Chaos Storm doing a lot of damage now, but I don't know if it's enough as the bot lane inhibitor will fall. There's no follow-up right now for San Jose State. They're going to try to farm these minions under their tower, keep the game alive for as long as they can. Earl Grey T has to be the one to make a play, but gets rooted up by the Blade Caller and now has to go on the escape. Shockwave will find the Rel, and I think they're on the victory march. Inexhausted, just unstoppable in the front line as Jess will go forward. Lando with combo strikes as well. T gets one back, and they will force down Callum Coy, but it does not matter. He's able to escape, and Mountains is the lone defender underneath the Nexus towers. It's a 3-6 for now. Screwjack Bunker has survived and left him back in the base. Mountains has the counter strike and try to stay alive, but will fall as Flex goes on his killing spree. Gwent goes down despite picking up a double kill, and they're on to the Nexus as we speak. Only the Ivern can try to save this game for now. Callum Coy's looking to end the game and will do so. Waterloo are your champions of the fall warm-up tournament.
There we go. University of Waterloo. They had a very, very great schedule coming into this. You saw them. We talked about their results. 3-1 in groups. They 3-0'd ISU. They 3-1 Cal Berkeley, and they 3-0'd Griffin. They've had one of the lighter schedules in terms of being able to make it here. They took very few losses, and here again in a 4-game series, Waterloo Gold, I mean, they end up winning in a very dominant fashion. It wasn't one where we got to see a lot of back and forth. Obviously, that game 2 was the closest game out of our 4 and ended up going over to the side of the Spartans. But this time around, it didn't matter what side they were on. They broke the curse as well in game 4. Blue side winning a game. What a wonderful way to end this.
Break our streak there, and we do have a Canadian team matching up with the Maple Leaf we see up on our screen right there to finish our fall warm-up strong. And I will say, a very strong performance from San Jose State. I don't think a lot of people thought they were going to be here against Conference in the first place. And, you know, as a team that is in one of these partner conferences, a lot of the time you think to yourself, oh, they're only in the round of 32 because they're in a partner conference or something like that. Putting up a very strong series against a former conference champion in the University of Waterloo is definitely a very strong showing for them. I'm excited to see how they're able to perform as we head later on into the CLOL season. But right now, we have to praise Waterloo, and I think they've impressed a lot of us that, you know, the expectations going into CLOL after this warm-up tournament has concluded maybe be a little bit differently around the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, for sure. I will move them up one spot a little bit further up on the tier list, and then we'll see them again. We'll be like, they played really well in warm-up tournament, and then they'll have like Fisher as their first thing in CLOL champ, and then get owned. So
a little unfortunate for them there if that ends up happening. But when you look at the Eastern Conference, Waterloo, they took the championships out of there. Apart from that, you're looking at Harrisburg, as being a big threat, and then depending on how strong Western or Toronto are, those are just schools that have very flexible rosters because they're not necessarily varsity programs. I mean, this is definitely a team that could impress. As we're taking a look at a replay package right now, we saw some moments, especially in the early game, as we continuously said, where the Spartans were able to perform, but saw Inexhausted do some Casante things, and then Callum Coy also just have a really strong game 4.
I'm taking a look. I mean, they're the teams in the East. I mean, you have like Western Ontario, right? Like you have UWO, you have Harrisburg, like you were saying. Unfortunately, Tufts going 1-6. Shout out Grapes. University of Toronto. Yep. Like, there's a few teams out there, and I think it would be pretty impressive for Waterloo to yet again put up a performance. This is a team that has ended up changing some of those, even McMasters, who were in this tournament and actually were in the same group as Spartans, and actually ended up going down there. So I think it's pretty impressive, nonetheless, for San Jose to make it to this spot, and for them. They beat a team in just yesterday in their semifinals, Converse, who have had a bit of mixed performance. I think that they're a top 32 team. I just don't know how far, like, at what point are they probably like 24 through 32? That's more likely than not. But going up against them, San Jose putting up numbers and putting up a result that hopefully can be recorded and, maybe is reflective of that, next season, of that next year in the season.
Yeah, definitely. And, I feel like a team like San Jose State, or, hasn't been considered as much, but with Converse getting a player like Surdy, they were definitely a team that had a lot of people had on their minds in terms of being somebody that could be very strong in the CLOL space. And after taking them down and putting up at least a solid performance against Waterloo, definitely the Mountain West, you got to think about them at least a little bit when you go to do your
For sure. For sure. San Jose, doing well for themselves, putting themselves at least on the map here in this grand finals. But Waterloo, I feel like every single game, it was just a little bit of a hand stiff and a better understanding of both the draft and how they wanted to do. I don't know if maybe that was just the players themselves leading it, or more so Onat, who is playing jungle on this team, being a little bit more, having that experience and knowing what cohesive team comps look like, how communication should go in a team of this caliber. And just having the players to be able to execute. When you take away a lot of those burdens, a lot of the outside factors of having to comm properly and how to do all the draft, you just play. And we saw players like Callum and Plex really show up today and have amazing performances.
Yeah, and specifically somebody like Plex, who is effectively replacing Onat in that position from last year. That's a tough task against somebody who was in NACL in 2023 and promoted back in the spring split. And he had a very solid performance, even against Went, who threw a ton of different counter matchups and awkward picks at him, was able to make the best out of every single situation and really have a solid performance. And it's these newer players coming in for Waterloo that I'm excited to see how they are going to be able to grow as their team goes forward in the collegiate season.
For sure, it's going to be really exciting. I'm now looking out for whether or not we get more Inexhaustive. He seemed like a really fun player. Seemed like Chad also was very big fans of him. They were seeming to have a little bit of fun for Inexhaustive, and I kind of want to see a lot of these players hopefully turn up in our qualifiers, right? Like when we're talking about NACL qualifiers, it is a large difference of how many different players we get in terms of skill level, especially when we're talking about like those last couple teams coming in by committee. So if we get to see them, hopefully, it's like, oh, cool, we get to have that fun little reconnect moment, and maybe they're on different teams, maybe they're on different plays, but either way, these students can be proud. This is a really fun tournament, and I'm really glad that we had something that isn't just a massive LAN tournament that's an invitational, or even the CLOL championship itself, because this is something that provides a bit of an outlet for teams that aren't necessarily going to make like a top 8 or a top 4.
Yeah, wait for these teams who have very solid programs to make their way into a very competitive environment. And we do have our MVP for the series.
There we go.
The bot laner for the University of Waterloo. I mean, the bot lane continuously was a point of emphasis throughout all the games in this series, Alkin. It was always Waterloo that ended up generally coming out on top.
Yeah, Callum Coy, I think 4 games in a row was never the reason his team lost a game. This guy never deserved to lose a game. Even in that Rengar game, it was not his fault. There was a little bit of a jungle diff. Unfortunately, Rengar was just way too strong. And hands-wise, I think he was the best player in the game. There was very few times where we saw Callum make mistakes, and he was always in a position to actually deal damage for the team. So really well-deserved MVP, and I hope to see more of this player going forward and competitive.
All right, well, yeah, I'm very excited. Again, a player that was in the support position last year. It's been very flexible for his team, a team player for the last 3 years at the University of Waterloo, and not entirely sure if this is their last season of play or if they have other opportunities later down the line, but a very solid opportunity to have a very solid CLOL season, as this is just the start of Collegiate for this upcoming school year, and I am very excited to continue to get into it. You can catch all of the games, or not all of the games, but you catch a ton of coverage of CLOL on this specific Twitch channel over the next few months as we lead our way into that coveted CLOL championship. So make sure to follow us at Uni Esports NA to make sure that you're always there and always up to date with all of the official match coverage that we're going to be having. But Off Battery, thank you so much for joining us. A shout out to the University Esports NA staff, who has been very great for us and have helped run this incredible show. And we're going to, I think, sign off for the time being and get ready for the CLOL season to start again in 2024. Thank you very much for everyone for watching, and we'll see you all next time. Callum Coy, and now it is Spartans in a really bad spot. The Feathers does a little bit of work, and they do take a lot of damage, but already Screaming Chuckler is down. They knock up one, but it's already Waterloo running away with the fight. See with the storm though, and the drag back already taking down one, and these are the Jinx resets that the buffs did allow for.
Oh my!
Getting hit by the ultimate as an easy one to finish off the Renata. Here comes the Ornhorn. Moun's gonna knock up 3. That's a big turn right now, but with the ultimate coming out here, the
wait.
I was making a nice fight. However, here comes an Exhaustive to clean up the kills. Getting a shutdown onto Jess, but the Moonlight Visual comes out but doesn't do enough damage. A huge Magnus Storm from Zendon, and the Super Mega Death Rocket will mean that Callum Coy will go crazy. Flash away from Callum Coy, and he'll be able to stay alive. Magnus Storm is huge on the other side, but D almost takes down Flash, but will go down despite the stopwatch in. Callum Coy has himself a triple kill and is excited and looking for more. It's a quadra kill, and now Screwjack Clunker is the only one left. Will they be able to find it in the finals of CeeLo warm-up? It exhausted buys a lot of time. Oh, look at the Magnus Storm!
Wow!
Look at the damage! Callum Coy with a huge fight here for Waterloo. They get all 4 members that Screwjack Clunker has to watch the rest of his team fall. Now with the ultimates, and all of a sudden, it is San Jose State trying to fight this one back out. But Callum Coy already has the ultimate proc. He's jumping forward and picking himself up.
Well, we're tail behind him, Screwjank. Yeah, let's see if they can make this happen.
They land the ultimate on the Callum Coy. He was knocked up. They're going to go right for the Zeri. Pops the bailout. Not going to be able to get the reset, though. But the rest of Waterloo will be there to clean up. Inexhaustive on the other side, combined with Flex. Whoa! Actually only makes it a 3. Now Blessing does save Flint's life for now. A big blade collar, and already Inexhaustive is down. And they will trade the kill in response. Lightning Crash comes through. Another big blade collar on Coy. And now it is Spartans in a really bad spot. The Feather